Okay, I think I'm live. You're thinking about calling off work so you can learn more about Thorp lore. Anon J says, "Smart move, Jeremy." I would agree. I think there's so much lore. Welcome to the stream. Good morning, Grace, over on Kick, wherever you are. Day 2 of unlocking the mind of Ben Thorp. What happened yesterday? There was a Ben and Grace streamed on multiple times. They had kind of a general stream, and then they did like a reacting to Fat Camp, which, by the way, has to be not the reaction part, but the actual Fat Camp content. How can you have millions of dollars, like literally millions and millions of dollars, they say, and you can't hire somebody for a minimal amount of money to like actually put your event together so that it like makes sense? It's just infuriating to me that they put no effort into the content. Like literally, there's a difference between like low effort and no effort, and like that just seemed like no effort content to me. What's up? What's up, Ember? What's up, Distinction? So I mean, it's whatever. Then over on Ruby's channel, we had, or no, it was on Ava's actually, right? Ruby streamed, but Ava had like a meeting of the mind. She had like the four horsewomen. It was Ava, Lo, Lynx, and Ruby in like a mega summit, which was interesting. Vegan Patriot live as always. I don't know. I didn't get a notification from the Jedi, but I did see that Joy will be back soon or is back or whatever. And I think Rich posted a video of some teddy bear outfit that he was going to wear. And then I talked to Rich for a minute yesterday about a Las Vegas episode we have coming up. What else? Anything? Tony Yoman, a new video. He's tired of feeling this way, he says. I've got some great new stuff, great new people to whenever we have time to do like a new Boyd talent show. I found a bunch of people who look like they might be pretty out there. I've got some great new daytime talk shows. Fix Up My Racist Friend on an Interracial Blind Date. That's got to be a good episode. What else? I'm sorry. I think I had one more thing to tell you. I'm just trying to remember what it is. It wasn't that I watched The Scorpion King because I didn't finish it. I got distracted during the... Oh, tomorrow. Okay. So I don't normally make a like hype up shows too much, but tomorrow, if you're a fan of the VHS or the retro or like the lo-fi content, I've been working on the show for tomorrow. Not working on it, but like finding just the right shit for it. It's gonna be like if you remember Tales from the Algorithm, it's like that, except it's all like lo-fi retro VHS stuff. That is a crazy powerhouse panel. All beautiful solo streaming ladies coming to... Yeah, I do love it when ladies come together. I will admit that. All right, that's all the news I can think of. Well, okay, I got my weekly update about how people are finding my channel. And for the first time ever, Vegan Patriot is threatening Grace's top spot as like how people find my channel. I don't think she's come up in the top 3 before, but this last week she was number 2. So it was like the Grace Thorp was the top search term, and then Vegan Patriot. So vegan stocks are rising, apparently. All right, I think that's it. I took it back like 30 seconds, just so that in case you're watching these on VOD at some point, like it'll flow together. You won't feel like you're missing whatever. Let's get in on this, and then we can discuss as we go.
I know where I get this joy from. That to me is the opening. But me saying, hey, you're going to go.
And again, this is Ben Thorp, Hollywood Ben Thorp, on the Elder Drazi show. Hold on. Yeah, Elder Drazi. So if you want to, after this episode, we're gonna take a break until next Monday. So if you want to finish it on your own, or you want to watch ahead after that, or whatever, like this is the account, Elder Drazi.
Go to hell unless you agree with these propositions. You know, that's the worst.
What happened?
Same thing as you said. That's just going to turn people off. God does not want us doing that.
You said
Sorry.
College. How old are you?
When I became Catholic, I was just out of college. 94.
That's really crazy. Most people don't change their ideas about God until almost until their deathbed. It either
Yeah,
happens
it's
when you're
unusual.
like 15 and under.
Didn't he say earlier? Yeah, I know, 200 views. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Isn't didn't he say earlier that like either he himself, Elder Drazi, had gone through 3 or 4 religions, or that he thought that that was okay? I think we had a mini discussion about that. So he's saying you can't change your opinion about God until your deathbed, but he's been through 4 fucking religions. Give me a break.
Or
Yep.
deathbed. Like it's like almost never anywhere in between that people change their mind about religion.
I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people college age, college used to be, now it's like it's sort of, I hate to say this right wing kind of thing. It's like an ideological camp, but it used to be a place where that kind of natural adolescent impulse to question what you've been raised with is encouraged, and you get different points of view.
I'm interested to see where Ben goes with this.
And oftentimes you land in a different place than you were raised in, especially if what you were raised in was also worked in with a family situation that you didn't think was healthy. So I do think a lot of people either confirm what they were raised in college, or
I agree, Jeremy. And also, and I'm not saying I know this for sure, but it seems like he's trying to placate Ben at times, like to hit, in my opinion, to Elder Drazi's own like disservice. He seems like he doesn't want to make, either just because he's a friendly guy and he doesn't want to be hostile. I don't know what he's like ordinarily, but he seems like he's being very like passive to Ben.
Reject it.
change. You know what I mean? I think that's because once you get established, you have kids, you have a career, that's rare that at that time you're gonna. I actually think the times you do it is like early adolescence, when everyone's questioning everything, like, when you just ask your dad why, right? Or like when you leave home and before you've settled, right? Because you want to know, like, ooh, I want to get this right before I get locked into career and commitments and all this stuff. Or like in my case, when that's
Elder Drazi, Ben pleaser.
all falling apart, you renegotiate, like kind of midlife, like
Sure.
reassessment, right? Where you say, like, I've invested in something that I really now am saying, like, I'm gonna die from. And so those, I think, are the normal times in which people have conversion experiences, but rarely early childhood, rarely when you're starting a career, rarely old age.
Yeah, rock
But
bottom's a great place to get lifted up from.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. I also, like, yeah, that's also when people like get into abuse of substances, college, and have to make a resolution or become a drug addict.
I mean, I think that's ultimately even more so. I think you're going to see people who, like Ben said, when they get to college, it's the first time they can really like, well, not so much anymore because you have the internet, but back in Ben's day, and even in my day, like, that was one of the first times you had kind of like unfettered access to information and could make your own choices. So I do think a lot of people will abandon religion at that point. But I also think it's worthwhile to talk about the other side of that. Like, when do people become religious? And like he's saying, rock bottom is a good place to build up from, and I think that's true. I can't remember which comedian said it, but somebody's, when they were asking him about, they were talking about religion, they said something like that a lot of people find that the reason that people find, whenever people find God, it's because people have stopped talking to them. I don't think that's true, but I think it is interesting to look at like both sides of when do people gain religion? What are the most likely scenarios that they gain religion? And when are the most likely scenarios like that they exit religion? Savvy Guy would have a good take on that.
Addict.
Savvy Guy left. He's in an open marriage, championship wrestling, but he says it's not. He was very, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but when Ben brought up the fact that he called him a swinger, and that really upset Elder Drazi for some reason. Like, it really, I don't know the nature exactly of his relationship, but he was offended at the idea that they were swingers. So I don't know. What's up, John Smith? So I don't know. So he's like I said, I don't really know anything about him as part of the problem. Like, I don't really know any of his background or anything, but what else? I mean, what other kind of, well, I guess there's probably tons of relationships within open relationships besides swingers, but like he seemed really upset about it.
or then get close to dying, right? You know what I mean? So it's a similar kind of thing. It's
Yeah, I was in my early 20s. I was a drug addict and got myself clean with not just decided like I got to stop, and then I did. Um, Even alcohol.
I'd love to have a conversation. There are so many people online, thoughtful, reflective people who have like had massive drug issues, and yet
Ruby.
online there's a kind of casualness about drug use that I find concerning. Like Destiny was an example. I
I don't
added Governor.
anymore.
Right. But like, there's a casualness about like LSD use or shrooms, and like, and especially marijuana.
Ben's like, I hope a pothead doesn't become like a daily clipper slash watcher of me and my daughter's channel and normalize weed use.
Oh yeah, I smoked
now
weed for a long
accepted.
time.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people have had I'm not one of them. I've never been addicted to any substance really at all. I've only smoked weed once. I don't get it, but I do get that a lot of people get into it.
Hey, Randy.
And they see it as like really problematic in their lives. Doesn't necessarily mean they're into criminalizing it or that's the solution, but the idea that it's like cool to do drugs, I don't think that's a healthy message to give to young people.
The problem I think is, especially with weed, is that the people that do it refuse to admit any of the downsides whatsoever. Which is fine. There are a ton of beneficial reasons why somebody might smoke weed or use any like THC based products. They can really help your life out a lot. But like it doesn't help anybody who because like if you're saying this, you're trying to convince people that it might help, that it could help them. But by denying all the negative sides, you're just giving fuel to the people who are dead set against it for maybe even just ideological reasons. Say like, well, this person's not even being honest with you, which is crazy to
What?
me. I haven't smoked weed in like 4 or 5 years now. I think
If I don't understand that, what's he talking about? Like that people say that there's absolutely no negatives to weed. I guess there are probably some people who feel that way. I don't think so though. There are people though who will like who are like aggressive about it and who like are like, hey, trust me, man, you just got to find the right strain or whatever. And I mean, that's just not true. Like weed is not for, just like anything else, it's not for everybody. So maybe Elder Drazi's encountered like a weed zealot or something like that.
I took 2 hits off of a joint once during like a
okay, never mind. Like it's what I guess if you know, but 2 hits, come on, bro.
Send me things to watch stream, and that was okay. And then I tried to do one other time. And
Ben is addicted to, in my opinion, IKEA food, certainly cigarettes, and what else? Anything else? That might be it.
And I felt like shit, and I just don't. I'm done with weed. I had my fun. I'm done.
Right.
I don't need it anymore. It doesn't help me anymore. It's just an issue. But like even with drinking, they say if you quit drinking, you can never have another drink again, or you're fucked. I can have a drink.
Well, Ruby claims that they drink a lot, but we don't see that on screen, so I can't really like confirm it. But I mean, we've seen them drink on stream, but there's a theory that they're drinking much more like off stream.
I can have a beer right now and I'm fine. Because
I took 2 hits off a joint, and let me tell you something. I had my fun. I'm done with weed now. It was such a crazy experience. I wish I was like that. I wish I could take 2 hits. I mean, weed works really well with my brain, but like I wish I was one of these people who had like these stories where they take 1 hit off of a joint and like they're floating around the room and they're having these. It just makes me think they didn't really do it because like weed just isn't in that ballpark. And I've smoked a lot of weed. Maybe it just works differently with their brain. I don't know.
My addictions weren't about the substance.
All the addiction stuff I think is really interesting.
Ben is addicted to control. Well, he would say that Grace is addicted to control. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think he would say that he's Palestine and she's Israel.
I think we've locked it into categories that are should be more negotiable than they are. I think a lot of times I find this interesting, not from personal. A lot of times there's a
Lalo took 1 hit off a bong and got himself a knockoff Grace girlfriend. I'd say that's pretty good outcome.
Culture of rehab and identifying as an addict that can be like problematic because in a sense it gives you things that want to make you want to stay in it
Well, it's
like
dogmatic as fuck.
identifying, and it can be like
Oh
a
yeah,
cult
Machiavelli.
of like addiction recovery, where that becomes an identity. And
I liked Machiavelli. I thought he was a very interesting, unique person that came on because he had completely different intentions than pretty much everybody else we see come on. They're like, he was just happy to be along for the ride, and he was there for some iconic moments. He was there for the goodbye, the Simp Olympics, the bong hit. He was yelling at his grandma at that time. And sometimes they were like a stream would be going on and you wouldn't even know he was there, and the camera would pan and he was there. Like he was just such a chill guy.
like, actually, I think a lot of times people can be like, you know what, just stop doing it. I don't know how it works. Easy
It's
for me to
substance
say.
replacement. Those programs and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you become addicted to, in a sense, support groups.
Yeah.
You can become an addict to the identity, and it's like, I don't even know if that's better.
Yeah, I just stopped, and I was miserable for the times that I was withdrawing and all that. But like I stopped. I did it because I knew I had to.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying
there's
that
a
some
lot
people
of
don't need help. Obviously, some people need help. It's not. I've always said like quitting any substance is the easiest thing in the whole world. If you just sit in a chair and do nothing, you've done it. You've accomplished it. However,
Wow, what a great take.
The internal things that happen inside of you are fucking
Hey, listen, guys. I took 2 hits off of a joint, and I just sat in a chair and got over it. That's how you conquer addiction, fellas.
wild, and I understand why that would be insurmountable to some people. Because most time addiction
Yeah, but-
isn't about the thing you're doing; it's about why you're doing the thing.
Yeah.
I remember the Machiavelli Machiavel mix-ups.
That's right.
So,
Right. I think
and-
even something like meth or even fentanyl, like in actual fact, if you were deprived of it for 3 days, it'll feel like the flu, and then you're
Oh my God. Can you believe we have 2 people who have 0 drug experience, according to them, who are saying that like the hardest drugs to get off of are like you just gotta stop it. Just knock it off. That's what they need to tell all these addicts. Just stop.
over it. So you're not going to die. Like people get locked up all the time who are fentanyl addicts. They don't die in prison. They cry, right? But 3 or 4 days in,
Alcohol will
they're
kill you.
over it.
If you're
Yeah,
seriously,
alcohol-
so you're
yeah,
seriously
maybe it's
addicted to
even
alcohol,
more dangerous.
that will kill you if you just stop. A famous actor died from alcohol withdrawal. I had the
Yeah,
shakes for like 4 days, and I knew, and I had a hard time sleeping. Had some night sweats, and then I had an organic smoothie on the 5th day, and I was like all better. It was crazy. I replaced
I drank an organic smoothie.
all the shit I sweat out, and I was all good. And now no more alcohol problem whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I smoke cigarettes. I'm not in
yeah.
any way advocating it.
I
There
vape.
are upsides to it. It does, like, you know, it's relatively light in terms of like fucking with your brain. It's mostly similar to coffee.
Just quit cold
It's
turkey.
soothing. It's a nice
What's
little
up,
ritual.
Anand?
That's why I got into it. I wasn't a smoker until I was 40 years old, and was trying to run a restaurant, which was, you know, but it's like a friend. You know what I mean? It's like your 5-minute. You know, you just whatever. But like, I'm not trying to judge anyone, but I actually have a
Well, you like old school Thorp viewers. Like, have they quit cigarettes before for any reasonable amount of time? It seems like they're smoking even in the old, like, where it looked like they were just like some random weird suburban family that wanted to be TikTok famous. That's how the early stuff comes off to me. It just doesn't seem very real, but like it seems like they were smoking even back then.
but interesting. I'd love to do a panel with you on this. I think,
I was
I don't
planning
know
on doing
exactly
one
how
about
to-
addiction.
yeah, I actually think talking about mental illness.
Just sit in a chair. Are you suffering from drug addiction? Just sit in a chair for a few days.
Has become a mental illness that I think, you know what I mean? Like,
Who could even do that if they wanted to? I feel like very few people could just take a few days. Like, imagine calling your work and be like, hey, listen, I can't come in. I'm detoxing from whatever. I need 3 days just to sit in a chair.
I really mean that. I'm not trolling. I'm saying a lot of people have become addicted
He quit when
to
he was in jail.
psychobabble. I hear the words gaslighting, projection, narcissism used in ways that people in the profession
Well, what happened with that is whenever those men looked in his anus, that shook his mind up and he forgot all about the cigarettes.
would say self-diagnosis is a huge problem. The term autism, now that it's entered into like mainstream
I
culture,
have no idea
is
what
used,
it means.
It's used as an insult. I don't know what is well defined,
Recovery
right? Even
chairs.
psychologists will
It
say
seems like an
That's what they need to start calling the whenever they have their chairs and then a third chair, like during the OPC Don Ben showdown that one time, that needs to be the recovery chair for the person that's being treated.
Umbrella term for not normal almost. Like there's such a wide spectrum of it.
Antisocial.
Yeah.
Antisocial.
Cigarettes or joints or bongs aren't too bad, but like cigarettes and joints, well, maybe not even joints, but like definitely blunts. Cigarettes and blunts indoors are a disaster.
It's such a broad spectrum that if you tell me you're autistic,
Organic smoothies.
All I know is that
what's up, Built to Spill?
Some things are going to be hard for you, but I have no idea what this means in terms of your symptoms, how they're going to manifest, how your daily life is. It is basically meaningless to me when I hear.
But a lot of times people will say, like, I know I'm being autistic.
Elder Drazi is like, listen, I know absolutely nothing about any of this. None of this means anything to me. But if you sit in a chair and drink an organic smoothie, you will overcome any addiction. Let's get Bert into a chair and give him a smoothie and see if it takes care of his gambling addiction.
About this, but blah 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 blah. Right? Like people used to say,
you just made
a couple,
an organic
like 20
smoothie.
years ago.
What's up,
saying,
Joe?
like, I know I'm being OCD about this, right? And what they don't mean I'm having obsessive compulsive disorder, where I'm saying unless I do this way.
Who was the other young guy with him? It wasn't. I think the only people I've seen on there are the brother that looks like Jack Doherty and OPC Don. Who else was there?
Someone's going to die, like someone in my family is going to die. That's what OCD means.
Yeah.
If you're just like really careful.
Hey, Joe, were you in here when Ben said that if you're on fentanyl, all you really need to do is just sit down in a chair for 3 days and everything will be better?
In editing about getting the frames right. That's not a mental illness. That's like just being very precise. And it's really laudable if you're in a technical profession that you really care about technical things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But they almost use it. You'd use it in a job interview to say, like, what's your negative quality? Oh, I have OCD. I'm a perfectionist, right? And people would say that knowing that the boss is going to be like, yeah, that's what I want. Attention to detail. That's not perfectionism, right? I don't know that the term is useful when people are using it so broadly that they're saying like attention to detail.
It kills me.
It's a mental illness. Like,
are we dealing with a smoothie conspiracy? We need to start promoting that to Grace and Ruby, getting them on the organic smoothies.
I think we've lost the sauce here. You know what I mean?
We could get. I bet Grace would do it. She's into like the whole weight loss journey. Well, maybe not. After she saw Fat Camp, she said she didn't feel insecure anymore. But if she gets back on it, we need to get her into the organic smoothies. And imagine that we can get organic smoothie content, like POV of her like cutting the fruit and stuff like that. That's Thorp TV gold.
I was younger. I was diagnosed with.
She can make a super healthy smoothie POV and then do cigarette making content right after.
OCD, and now my psychiatrist says it's not OCD. You have obsessive compulsive tendencies. I don't meet all the criteria, but for my whole life, when I would try to explain to somebody like, why are you being
What's
weird?
up, Juice?
Like,
hey, loading.
I have OCD. And like, oh, I think I have that a little bit too. Like, stop. No, you fucking don't.
Ben thinks OCD means attention to detail. Smoothie arc. He gets upset with you when you suggest cognitive behavioral therapy over praying. You suggested something to Ben. Then he didn't like it. That's not surprising.
Like, right. I'm trying to explain to you something that's like super awkward for me and alienates me.
I said something to Ben one time. This was a long time ago. Before it was when they knew about Thorp Alert, but we weren't really we hadn't had very much contact. And I said something in chat just joking to Ben, and he told me, well, maybe I should fix the audio in my streams before I bring any criticisms.
From people, and people treat me weird, and they're like, why are you being fucking weird all the time? It's not the same as how you have to clean your fucking house, okay? I promise you. If I try to get a hold of somebody because they've been gone 10 minutes longer than they should have been, and I just start imagining the different ways that they've died, where I'm super stressed out about it. If you don't clean your house, you're gonna be thinking about how embarrassed you'll be if somebody stops by. It's not the same, okay?
Yeah, it's not the same, right? But we all have, I think, a tendency sometimes, even when we're cleaning normally, to clean a little too much because it makes us feel good. And you can see where that, when you say
diagnosed with OPC. What about? Do you think if OPC Don sat in a chair for 3 days, his addiction to Grace would end? It was awful. I agree 100%. That's why I can't really complain. I can't complain about the zing because it was. Fat Camp is unwatchable. 100% agree. Probably I thought the stuff last time was the worst. This is it's literally, it's not even non-tent. It's like there's a new level below non-tent. It's just no. That's it. Just no.
tendencies. Yeah, 10 steps down the line, I say
Yes.
I have to stroke this 10 times exactly. And if I do 9, I start over again. And then I get caught in this loop. But I almost think that having this label,
Ben's like, I don't know about these people that get stuck in the loops.
introducing this into your mind is a temptation to start doing that. And then it's better that we
How do I don't get real with the glazing, Ben. If you want to say I glaze Grace, I'll agree with that to a point, but glazing Ben, no way.
just don't even, it's almost like race realism. Like, some people say, like, don't even start talking about those charts. It's just not, people can't stop.
Yeah, I
once they
stopped
get
telling
into
people about it because I just don't
Yeah.
want.
And then
it's
you
like,
get
it's
labeled.
not helpful. It's not helpful for me to explain it if somebody's going to
Yeah.
relate it to how they clean their house. It just makes me more frustrated and upset because
And
all
it's
I did
also
was
an easy
dilute the
label to
understanding.
put you down. It's an easy label to put you down. Like I've said, like I used to have extreme bipolar tendencies. I was never diagnosed formally,
Oh,
but you can see when I get animated, people go, "You're being manic." No, 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 no. That's not at all what mania is. Mania is 2 hours of sleep, thinking thoughts, like, you know what I mean? Like that. It's just a different thing. But
Is this like, I'm not trying to be presumptive, but do you think that like, where do you think Ben is getting his information from as far as like what he thinks? Do you think it's just he's using his own observations? Because like what he's describing, like it is mania, but that's like such a small portion of what people with mania like deal with. Where do you think he gets like his definitions or whatever? Do you think it can't be from like a textbook?
refused. I don't want to take the label. I didn't want to take the label because I actually think what all of these mental illnesses are related to is moral problems. I think that bipolar is a way that someone who has a problem that they're not aware of or dealing with in their life, it's just natural that you're going to like go crazy trying to fix it and then get exhausted, then go crazy trying to.
Handling Ben is like, and admittedly, I'm not somebody who's trying to get like a bunch of views or a bunch, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get the most viral content. I'm just trying to like show interesting stuff. Like, I think the easiest way to handle Ben is just to let Ben speak for himself in these videos, because if you give him context, you know he's going to say some wacky stuff, but you also know that you're going to like get a better understanding of like his mind. You're not just going to get like the snippets or like whatever. So I think like presenting Ben in this format, I think is really the best way to handle his content, because it lets him he's doing what he likes to do, which is like he's running the narrative, and we're letting him say his own words in his own voice with complete context.
So I think
I don't
most
know.
of the time
Theology
it's
books.
like it's actually a
What's up, Laughing Cedar?
beneficial mechanism where your mind is racing to try to. Depression's another one. I don't think you should take drugs. I understand you don't want people killing themselves, and I don't have any problem with sometimes
ATF Media, dude, tomorrow you got to be here. It's going to be a crazy VHS show. Amazing stuff.
saying like, look, I just need to get out of this place. But depression can be really useful because it can make you say, I've got something wrong. Maybe I need more meaning in my life. Something's not working.
Of course.
And I would say it can be very useful, instead of saying, oh shit, we've got to stop this. Like, lean into it. Your mind's racing. Maybe you're trying to find a solution.
I think the label.
I got to think about that for a minute. There was a lot of stuff in that little rant there to process. But the idea, I think, that you could weaponize your depression, or you could definitely weaponize being bipolar if you wanted to, but weaponizing depression, it's like, I feel like most people, when you hear them talk about being depressed, they're not like, well, my life's going on like normal, but I'm just depressed. There's an undercurrent of depression. Like, I feel like if the situation allowed you to really, I don't know, I don't really know how to put it, but like if you're in a deep depression, your first thoughts aren't probably ones of like how you can befriend the depression to turn things around. Like, I think that's part of the deal with depression for a lot of people, is that you're like you're stuck, and like you're just trying to make it through like your everyday life, and not like how to how to use this as an opportunity.
Labels are useful insofar as that if you're using it to help get more about yourself to try to figure out how to improve. Um,
But they can be. They have unintended consequences, like you say.
Sure.
When other people get that label,
if you use it as an
especially on the internet,
excuse,
as an excuse.
Yeah, it's an extreme. It's like, yeah, there's not really much. It's from like one thing where one side is like everything is mental illness, and on the other side there's like absolutely nothing wrong with anybody ever. And Ben seems to think like be more on that end.
Use personally, right, for moral failure. Like I think a lot of times ADD is just simply,
or that like being bipolar is just like, oh, I had a bad day today, and then tomorrow I like had a good day. I think that's how Ben views it, or how he verbalizes it anyway.
not concentrating enough. You know, it's caused by like having 5 things. This is my problem with like Destiny. Why do you have a computer game going while you're talking to someone? That's doesn't make any sense. Do one or the other.
I took my ADHD meds while we were talking, and and I'm on I'm on such a high, like this is all like all of my mental illnesses that I have been diagnosed from a really young age. Like I was.
Oh boy, this guy. First, he brings up the fact that he's in an open marriage. Strike one. Then he brings up that he had a vasectomy. That really upset Ben. Strike two. Now he's finding out that he has a multitude of diagnosed mental illnesses and is currently taking his proper medications for them. Cooked. Elder Drazi is cooked. That's strike 3.
I was diagnosed with depression when I was 5. I started putting labels on all my things in my room. And my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm gonna sell all my things because I don't deserve to have anything." When I was 5.
Yeah.
So like, I think that there's a lot of people that I meet and I talk to that seem to think they have mental illnesses that like I've experienced throughout my life and worked really hard to like fit in with other people and to like to mask them up or to like at least manage them and find ways to explain to people like, I'm just gonna go lay down for like 15 minutes. I just need to like chill out. And it's just a way to like help explain things to people. But they've all been, it seems like everybody has like a thing or another that just has no relation to anything that I've seen, the way these things.
Hey, listen, he's saying that he has a mental illness, and if you're gonna tell him you have a mental illness, you had better have had the exact same experiences that he had. Otherwise, because he's worked very hard, okay? And so you can't just come in and say that you have a mental illness if you don't have the exact same experience as him. What is the deal with this guy? At one second, he seems like he's trying to be like come off as like super open-minded and super like accepting. I don't know if it's because he's being kind of like led a little bit by Ben, but it just seems that this guy's just like all over the place.
Manifest in, and they just want to use them as an excuse, and it makes it really hard.
Who gets diagnosed with depression in kindergarten? This guy, Elder Drazi.
To garner any level of understanding for somebody that's like, tell me about the hard work you put in with your, like, if you tell me that you have bipolar, tell me about the steps that you've taken to manage your bipolar and how.
Why in the world does anybody, let me emphasize this, anybody on earth owe Elder Drazi an explanation about anything? Where is this coming from? He wants him to submit, like, paperwork to, like, basically to Elder Drazi. Everyone is faking mental illness except him. And he's sitting with someone who 100% thinks that he's faking it. But he's not arguing that point with Ben. He's just making this weird story about how only he's the real chosen one. Everybody else is like a fraud.
You've like helped yourself like be able to keep a job. Tell me about how like that's affected
what happened, South to West?
Your like your marriage, or how it's affected your ability to parent. Otherwise, like maybe just say sometimes I fucking suck and that's okay too. Like I don't need to hear you mirroring the things that like have been a lifelong struggle. Like because
oh man, well Ben's done it. He's brought out we no longer have Elder Drazi. We have Elder Victim. Ben has forced Elder Drazi to embrace his full victimhood.
I think these things are real, but they're also like we've celebrated it in a weird way to where people want to have one.
Oh my
God.
Yeah. You become
like,
part
can
of
you chill the fuck out?
Yeah.
And it makes it really
but
hard
also
for
you
people...
become part of
But his is real, guys. His is real.
the victim culture, but you also get written off by a lot of people when you take the label because they're like, okay, they're crazy. That's a red flag. I can't have a relationship with that person.
Well, okay, Ben's right there, kind of. But if the insinuation is someone would meet him and have the exact same experience, but one person would walk away saying, like, Ben Thorp is a perfectly sane person because he didn't tell them that he was diagnosed bipolar, but have the exact same experience with somebody else, but then tell them he's bipolar, and they'd be like, "Wow, that guy's crazy." Like, I don't agree with that, but I do think people would definitely like. There are people who would be less likely to engage with you maybe if they knew that you had like a specific mental illness, maybe.
Person. They're bipolar. They're crazy. And now actually you find people who like, now you can be a celebrity in a sense, come online and have sex with Destiny. And he thinks it's hilarious that to watch you actually like experience mental illness in a.
Well, I just want to say Ben's completely broken Elder Drazi down and we're 2.5 hours into it and we have 4 hours left. So
sexual relationship that has now become normalized. And I think that's Mr. Girl's problem is like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, these are human beings. And I just like to circle back to the Mr. Girl thing. I don't know. I don't know. If I look at Mr. Girl as a creator and Destiny as a creator, I respect Destiny in many ways, but Mr. Girl is in almost every way superior as a creator, in my opinion.
Was Ben being held at gunpoint for a minute there?
Doesn't mean I think Destiny should go to jail or lose his career. I'm just saying Mr. Girl didn't have a video game on. He listened to people. He could actually like follow a conversation in a way that wasn't just like, oh, look, here I go. See,
I think this is not an important piece of micro lore, but it's just something to keep in mind is that Ben's upset that Destiny's playing a video game. Yet Ben thinks the most entertaining person on LolCow Live is Boogie2988, who plays Hearthstone constantly through every episode of LolCow Live.
Autistic, right? Like
I prefer the term retarded, Ben. I have fought tooth and nail to make sure that people know that I'm going to say retarded when I mean it in the colloquial sense.
I fought, guys. I fought tooth and nail to be able to say that. What?
Socially inept, let's say. I think Destiny suffers from social ineptness in a way that like Mr. Girl doesn't. He's actually able to like have a reflective whatever. I don't need to put a label on it. I'm just saying he's a more interesting person to have a conversation with, in my opinion, than Destiny, because you can hear the other person. Doesn't need 5 things going on at the same time. Doesn't need to do it like, you know what I mean? So why is he not? Yeah. Why is he not online? Why did he end up saying like, I can't do it anymore? Like, what is it? Why did he say like, I'm hurt by Destiny? Like, instead of saying like, fuck that whole, like, fine, these people suck. Okay, I agree. Do something else.
I don't think he's retired.
Like, but he sort of is.
So here's the thing. I can explain the whole situation to you. Mr. Girl and Destiny had.
This is such a weird panel, but then on top of that, to the like Grace lore, we're heading up on 3 hours. So in theory, we could be heading into the golden time.
A good thing going. And in my opinion, it was like the golden age of Twitch pull content. When Mr. Girl and Destiny made content together, that shit was fucking fire, dude. You couldn't. There was nothing like it. Nobody challenged Destiny since maybe like in the first debates with like him and Vosh when they would go back and forth, when that was really good to watch. But Mr. Girl is different. Like they're not disagreeing over like the nuance of policy points. They're disagreeing on like ideology that never got discussed in the first place. And you have Mr. Girl who doesn't care, and Destiny who acts like he doesn't care but knows that there's a line he has to toe to. And then there's everybody else who wants to be a part of it. And it just became a really interesting dynamic that we never seen before.
Yes, right.
Now, Mr. Girl finds out about the things that happened with Anna, and you know, when you first get it, when you blow up like that, you're getting money, you're getting attention, which the attention is probably more to most people more valuable than the money. There's people that appreciate the things that you put effort into. You can't buy that. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You can't.
This was October 2023. I think Joe Shabatoni looked it up. I'm not going to try again. Last time I clicked on the thing, it ended up taking us to a Raven shoot interview.
Can't garner genuine admiration from people. And then when you see,
especially if you're an artistic type, which Mr.
Yeah,
Girl is, who is saying like I'm getting validation for my like differentness. Yeah.
yeah. And so when you have that, and then you see something that offends you so deeply, and you're able to take a step back and go like, okay, I know that there's some things that like I kind of brush aside because like
Yeah.
everything's awesome. It's like when you start dating somebody for the first time, you're gonna miss the first couple red flags because the
Yeah.
things that you like so much, you know. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of things that sort of pass by, and then the Anna thing I think was the point for him. Where he's like has to take a step back and go like,
Well, let's hope Ben starts talking more, man. Drazi's pulling us down here.
and well, no, I'm gonna tell you you're wrong here, and I'm gonna actually fight you on this. We're not play fighting anymore. We're not
thought
Yeah.
debating
Right.
for fun
Imagine Elder Drazi telling you that you're not play fighting anymore. You know you're in trouble then.
ideologies here. I think this is fucked up, and and it led into some more serious disagreements. And then, in the midst of those serious disagreements, I think he took a step back and looked and saw like there were things that I was overlooking that are just bad here, and that was really
Right,
wrong
right.
of me to do that.
Yeah.
The first time I heard Anna say something, I didn't even give a shit. I just said, "Well, I trust
Right.
my friend, not you." And
Right.
so part of the Destiny report was him providing like doing penance. Like he
Yep. Right. Right.
had to make up for the
I
fact that he was
participated
complicit.
in this stuff. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's been really clear about that. And also, too, the thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that Mr. Girl didn't come out and say, I'm going to make a report on Destiny, and here's why. Destiny made a
Well,
stream talking about
I should say, like, I'm not very up on Mr. Girl, so maybe this is like, if you're a Mr. Girl informed person, this is more interesting. But I feel like Ben looks right now.
the fact that Mr. Girl was doing that before he ever made it public.
Yep. I know that. Yeah.
And
I
so-
pieced that together. Yep.
And so now you have like all the other things that had happened where there was falling outs with Destiny and all that. This was people who broke apart because of a disagreement and started off their own communities or whatever on the side. This was Destiny saying, this motherfucker's coming after me. It's like this. It's like this. And his fans just went absolutely insane. They doxed him, constantly harassing him. Like I think that when you go from having all this admiration and money coming in, and like your life is changing so much for the better, and the rose-colored glasses come off, and you go, "This is something I can't be a part of anymore." That's hard. That's really hard to deal with. And then
So
to get
you're
a ton of
saying in
hate
some
also,
sense he was like a golden boy in that world.
I just think it was. I don't know.
But wasn't
I don't
he
know how to
always
put it.
getting hate from day one for the pedophilia stuff?
Sure, but there
No?
was
maybe not.
there was for a while it was just hate, but there had never been a level of appreciation and acceptance for the stuff that he did, or even him, like, you know, as an individual on this scale. And then when he had to take a step back from that at the same time, you're super vulnerable when that happens. And then to have like not just like people saying shit, but people actually like doing stuff that can hurt you, like doxing you when they
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they hate you this
Hold on.
much.
I saw that earlier, and I couldn't tell for sure in the shot. So Elder Drazi has a game chair that's the Punisher logo, which is like anti-police, but for some reason it has Donald Trump hair. I don't understand that reference. Like, what?
To where they're putting your address and pictures of your house on the internet.
Yeah.
That's hard, man. When you like actually have to be worried if somebody's gonna show up at your house and like to like
No, but
Oh, I was wondering how Ben was going to respond to this, the idea of just randomly showing up at people's houses, because Drazi's like, this is the worst thing you could do. No wonder he left the internet.
that's a big fall and a big hit to take, I think, for anybody. And
I don't-
Do you think Grace intentionally sent me this link because it has some nice parallels with modern Thorp storytelling?
Mr. Girls cried on stream, like not like sob, but like he's had tears come out and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not like he's not like a sensitive, emotional guy. He's a pretty sensitive guy, and I think
Of
it would
course,
take
yeah.
if anybody were to take that fall, I think that would be really difficult. So I think maybe he's overcorrecting a bit now with like the getting rid of super chats and stuff. I think that if you seen you were super blind, you definitely. Anytime you come from one idea and then you realize you were wrong, there's a big risk of overcorrecting.
yes, I think that's true.
Anime
I think there's a
posted.
bit of an overcorrection going on now, but that's
Yeah, like I said, I don't know a lot about Mr. Girl. What little I've seen through Grace's show, like, it's not something, I don't get it, but I'm not into like the like That's the only content really that Grace watches that I get the red pill stuff. I don't get the Mr. Girl Smith stuff. It just doesn't. I don't understand it.
It's just my idea of it.
And of course,
Obviously, I don't know it's
he's
mine.
free to
Only
take a
4
break,
hours
whatever
left.
whatever of course that could be a healthy thing to do, take a break. But I don't know, like I don't see.
Imagine me explaining this at the gates of heaven. How did you use your time on Earth? I did 4,000 hours of review of Ben and Grace Thorpe.
Him as someone who was afraid of getting negative attention from day one. Okay, but then it seemed like he got beat down when like all the Destiny people kind of lined
How tall is he? Do you know how tall is Elder Drazi?
up, and even some people who weren't even Destiny people were like just giving him a hard time for this report, which of course the
I got
report
hate for that
itself-
report.
Yeah,
Like, that's how strong it is.
Like everything that Elder Drazi said happened to Mr. Girl, by the way, happened to like Ruby. And Ruby still did Ruby ever at any point stop streaming? Like it seemed like she was just constantly streaming. So I feel like there are people who go through what Mr. Girl went through and don't cry about it on the internet and don't go and hide and whatever. But maybe like Juice was saying, if there was like legitimate reasons of why people were like targeting him, then I guess that's a different kind of situation.
I got a lot of hate for that report. I got people being super mad at me just for being a supporter of his.
I was just curious. I thought that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure.
Well, people.
It's just his energy, I guess. But like he could be. I felt that way about Thick Gemini too, and that guy's like 6'4" or something.
People interrogating me like I'm the one who's making it.
okay, but what I'm saying about it is like, if you've been in actual legal situations, like I went to court with the head of the.
Oh, he is still around. All right, because like I said, I don't really know much about him. So he's like in this instance, he's saying that like at this time, I guess he took a break or whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like tons of people go through that experience being online and don't always like, run away or whatever.
Mafia in Providence over a thing like that's real life. Even that though is like a joke. They're not gonna like attack you, but like that's real life.
Anytime a Mr. Girl clip comes up in my feed, it's like an A-log or whatever. It's always some like purple tinted video of like a close up of like a sweaty face. I just immediately am like, no, that's not for me.
Life shit, or like dealing with neighbors
Always on Kick.
in the hood
Wow.
who could pull a gun on you. But like, okay, there's not even anything here that's like, I don't know, the DDoS thing, is that illegal? Something someone could take legal action?
Oh, how interesting of Ben to bring up DDoS when we all know the hand of the Thorpes, Reptilian Richard Ramirez.
I don't know. It's like he was just saying, I wanted to kill the kid. Like, I don't think
He said
that's
he
a
bought a
legal
gun
thing.
and had a plan.
Yeah, right. So, but it's kind of like one of those things that like unlikely to make its way into court.
Sure,
Because
and
you can
just to be
always
clear,
just plausibly deny and say.
I'm not
like,
giving
oh,
my prescriptive statement on this at all. I'm just saying it's easy to see why somebody would be like, "Whoa, I'm not cool with
Right.
this at all."
Right. But then in another way, it must have occurred to Mr. Girl that he was doing the same thing as the DDoS kid, trying to wreck Destiny's career. Because he kind of was. He was trying to say, like, this should all be seen as abusive. This shit should come smashing down. And then it must have occurred to him on some level. Okay, well, but this guy said, like,
Do you think that's why people like Mr. Girl maybe go off of the internet and people like Destiny never really leave, is because Destiny just kind of whatever happens, no matter what it is, he just keeps going, like, whereas other people will like stop what they're doing to address things or issue apologies or take a break or rebrand or whatever, but like some people just continually march forward no matter what. Like, I guess it's like the saying goes, like, you can't really be canceled unless you agree to be canceled. Does that make sense? It's something like that.
sometimes inclined to kill people who even stop my internet flow, right? So, okay, all right, you gotta make an assessment about Destiny. I think Destiny's a pussy,
Oh,
you
here
know,
we
but
go.
like he does have guns,
Yeah.
and I think he's a loser who doesn't have much.
He just made degeneracy his brand to where like it didn't matter, like you just say like whatever the accusation was, like, yeah, it happened, and then just keep streaming.
going on. Like, I think if his career ends, it's like there's no backup plan. I don't think went to college.
Elder Drazi to me, and this is a little bit of a deep cut maybe, but like in the early days of the UFC, there was a guy named Joe San, and we've talked about him before. He got punched in the balls like 20 times. I think Elder Drazi would make a good choice to play Joe San in the like Lifetime movie.
I don't think he has anything other than streaming. Okay, but I also think like in the
So Ben and Grace are Mr. Girl fans. Ruby's a Mr. Girl fan. Is it like a manosphere thing? I don't understand being like Ruby being a fan of Mr. Girl. Given I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a lot about him. He seems to be popular within like the Thorpiverse, at least with the on-screen people.
end, he's suburban sort of wimp who's not going to do anything. But I could see how it's like, oh shit, well, like let's do the math here. Like, aren't I doing what the DDoS kid did? Except I'm doing it in a way that's like
DDoS kid did it out of hating Destiny. When Mr. Girl did this, it didn't. You can anticipate something bad happening because you doing what you think is right, and it doesn't make it any less bad when it happens. If I go and stand up for
oh my god, shout out Keith Hackney, man. What a legend. Not only did Keith Hackney punch Joe San in the balls 17 times, but he also fought Emmanuel Yarborough in like the biggest weight difference fight. Like, well, I think they had maybe a bigger one in Japan in Pride at some point. But like Keith Hackney against Emmanuel Yarborough was absolutely nuts. Like those are two iconic fights.
Somebody who I know did, like, if somebody accused my best friend of rape and I know he was with me that night and I go to court on his behalf and I
Turkey Tom, I might check it out.
Speak to his character and say he was with me. If he still gets found guilty and I know it's
I'm open to Turkey Tom. He's not one of my like favorite documentary people, but every once in a while I'll check him out.
It's not true. And I still back up my...
The good thing about him, though, is that he's fast. Like, a lot of times, if something happens, like, he's doing a live about it, like, hours later.
Friend, and say, no, she's a lying bitch. I know this guy. He's a good guy. I know people are going to fuck with me because of that. It's not going to make it any easier when people fucking throw shit at me or fucking write me threatening letters because I said I didn't believe this woman. You know what I mean? It's all going to be justice. It might even be worse.
It is tough.
Because I knew I did what was right. And I know that even though that was going to happen, I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I
you
just
have
think
to
that's
have
the position
super
he's
thick
in.
skin. You have to have I don't even think you have to have super thick skin. Like, you just have to, in some sense, say, like, I don't give a fuck. I know who I am. Like, for me, it's like, my Father in heaven loves me. I don't give a fuck because Jesus Christ died on the cross. Only 2 people were there with him. And I want to be that man. And he told me, don't care what people say. So I love that because, like, I want to go to heaven. And you don't go to heaven based on how many people approve of you. If anything, it's the opposite. So I'm good. I'm happy to die. But, like, it would be silly also for me to, like, die.
It's a great Ben quote.
Because, like, I couldn't stop insulting someone on the internet who was... I was put in a position with this guy. You heard of this guy named Boneface? Who was someone who...
What do you think about that? Now, Ben, I don't think is saying that, like, well, he kind of is. He's basically saying that, like, really nothing matters that happens in this life as long as you get to heaven. But, like, what do you think of, how does that philosophy feel as someone who, like, shares a world with people who think that, like, whatever happens in this life is, like, irrelevant, so, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of a weird feeling.
He's got these crazy tattoos all over his face, and he was saying, it turned out to be a lie, that he had been to Ukraine as a neo-Nazi paramilitary who actually crucified another human being. They were trying to set me up like, oh, Ben, you talk shit. Why don't you talk shit to this guy? And I was like, I'm not interested in talking shit to this guy. I don't know whether it's true or not, but, like, I don't know. I don't want him to roll up. And I don't find him that interesting because, like, white nationalism to me is boring and stupid. But, you know, like, I'm taking it into account that, like, he looks like it and people are saying, you know, he's unhinged and he had a criminal record. Turned out the whole thing was a lie. He's just a bullshit artist, right? So, but I'm saying, okay, yeah, online you don't really know who you're dealing with. Sure. Kind of like driving. You're kind of anonymous. Someone fucks with you when you're driving, when you have kids in the car, you stop saying like, "Oh, I'll fuck back with them." I'm just saying I have no idea who that is. I don't want to have my kids dead because I chose the wrong person to fuck with, right? Even if
Sure.
I'm in the right.
And I'm
like,
not even
whatever,
saying
cut me off, go.
I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm not giving a condemnation of Destiny. I'm not saying that Mr. Girl should have written the report. The worst thing he ever did for his career was write the report.
Yeah, it definitely does. I always see Smeth as like basically just a Mr. Girl orbiter, but I just never. I don't really get what content I've seen of either of those people. Smeth is one of the few times on Grace's channel I'll just immediately go watch somebody else. Like I don't get it at all.
Report. I think this is non-debatable.
Oh, you think so?
For his career, oh God, look at
Because he
his
took
career
him
2
out
weeks
of the
before
scene?
look at his career 2 weeks before that, and like
I mean, in all reality, this is saying a lot too. Like, if someone were to tell me like that I had to like watch one or the other, Smeth or Grid One, I would honestly probably watch Grid One.
I've even said on a selfish level, I wish that he didn't do it because I'd still be getting the best Mr. Grill content I've ever seen out of it. But
Yeah.
I have to, I can never say that I don't respect somebody who's willing to die on the hill for like their genuine beliefs. And the thing that I argue with people about the most about Mr. Grill is when they call him a liar, or when they say like, well, he's obviously lying here. Like, I have no evidence that he's lied about anything.
Right.
And
No, I think he's sincere.
you don't
It's
go
just,
that
I
far.
think the
if you're
logic, to me, the
not.
logic, it doesn't quite make sense because, like, in the end, I think that, like, I watched John Zerka, who's kind of a silly guy,
I know,
but
who
he was saying
is.
this is a nothing burger. Everyone, basically, all you're doing is saying this
You
guy
pick
is
Smith? Yeah,
who
see, I
he
don't know. I just don't get it at all. I just find it like completely boring. I just like literally like I was like I didn't get it wasn't for me. Like at all.
is, right? Like, of all this stuff, almost the entire report was just
Yeah, but
stuff
it's
that
not.
was publicly available and known. There was not like some revelation.
Yeah, well, he
really,
said
of
it's not
some
for
dark.
people that watches Destiny. It's for the people that don't. It's for the parents of people that watch Destiny. It's for
But,
people that might engage with him who have not. Like,
But
here's
the
the things
problem-
you should know.
Okay, but the problem is Destiny more or less says it openly. I knew it in 5 minutes. This is a guy who sees people as expendable, who in some sense, like, sees everything as content, including sexual relationships. Obviously. And like
Oh man, Ben criticizing someone for seeing sexual relationships as content?
mental illnesses. When Grace came on, he was like, people were like, "Oh, this is gonna be your next crazy arc." We didn't really know much about Destiny. We'd seen him in a couple of okay, but he's making it clear. Oh, okay, I might flirt with Grace. She's pretty. She's edgy. She seems kind of like crazy. She has this family background. I'm milking this for content, and I don't give a fuck about these people as human beings. That was obvious to me. I don't need to write 100,000 page, 100,000 word report about that. But I'm just curious how Max didn't understand that. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I
yeah,
did say part of
he's
it
a
is
cynic.
is
Would
about the
I
penance.
entrust? Would I tell Grace to entrust her heart to someone like Destiny? No way. But I didn't have to tell her that.
Entrust her heart. Would I tell Grace to entrust her heart to someone like Destiny?
She knew it from the get-go because she's been around. You know what I mean?
Right. I think
Nice.
You're not going to sleep with this guy to get clout, right? Like, you got to be what?
on the other
And-
side of it, did you? I assume you didn't read the report.
I read a good amount of it, but it's not an easy read.
No, it's not. I made
Yeah.
it through. I read about half of it on stream with
Like reading
Benny.
a dictionary, you know what I mean? It doesn't.
Yeah, and but the
Right.
thing that was interesting for me is that it was like a novelization or like a book of the things that I had watched. It was like the opposite of like reading the book and then seeing the movie. I saw the movie and now I'm reading the book.
Right.
And some of the things when they were put in the context of the book, because like me and Benny, we read it on stream, and
Mhm.
it did change how I felt a lot about some of the instances that I already knew about.
Yeah, I could see that. Where you
Without
just
hearing
gotta
Destiny
take a
complain
step
about
back.
it and stuff.
Yeah, where you take a step back and you go, actually, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, the
There's
one that
something
really
wrong
got
here.
me was he had some women over for TwitchCon, and then they went to his place to get their phone or something, and he kicked them out and said they couldn't stay there anymore. And his reason is that he thought they were acting strange and he didn't want there to be like any allegations. And I was like, that's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Like, what? You're preemptively kicking somebody out because of something they did that was non-interactive with you. They came back to your place to get their phone or whatever it was. and you're kicking them out, saying that you're afraid of them like having like some kind of like sexual allegation against you. That's really weird to me. But when I heard him talk about it, it didn't feel weird to me at all. And I'm not saying
Really?
that.
I don't know. I feel like if you're a halfway, even like halfway known person, you do hear a lot of allegations come out of like TwitchCon and stuff like that. I don't think it's weird for somebody to like protect themselves in those kind of situations, but I didn't know Mr. Girl had that kind of, well, why would you take him back there in the first place though, I guess if you're worried about it, but I don't know. But I do understand the idea of people, if you have any kind of money or clout or whatever, to like being aware of keeping yourself out of situations where where it's where it's just one person's word against another.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Especially if your reputation is already a little bit, weird or creepy.
I don't know. Like you'd have to.
I
like,
heard him talk about it as a Destiny fan.
If it's his place though, and he's saying, I don't feel comfortable. There's something about these women, and women like who want to fuck with me. I'm vulnerable to say like, I don't know. I mean, if like I don't know what kick them out means. If you say like, I'm not
so you
comfortable
can't stay there anymore.
Staying here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't see what.
If it ends there, that's not weird to me. But saying like, but adding like the thing like I'm concerned about like some kind of allegations coming from them, that was weird to me.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sort of like imputing their character preemptively.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if you were like,
but it's a rough world. I mean, I would just say.
I was like, hey Ben, why isn't Jenny staying at your house anymore? You'd be like, oh, I just told her she had to go. Like, I didn't want her to accuse me of raping her or something. I'd be like, hey, what do you mean? Yeah. You let her stay there? Like, what happened? Well, like, she came in to get her phone charged, and I was like, she's gonna tell people I raped her. Like, nah, Ben, why would you say that to me?
Who, the Thorps? They have Thorp TV, right? Thorp TV's still up, I think. Speaking of which, I don't know the whole story, but Get Cracked for Me said that Decent has like a bunch of the misunderstood streams, but that the Thorps are going to purge Thorp TV's archive. So I sent Grace a message and asked her about getting access, so I'll update you when I hear anything. But as far as I know, Thorp TV's still up. It was this morning anyway.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it seems like you're
it's weird.
You're trying to take hold of the narrative preemptively before to shut her up, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, if anybody said that to me like that, even like one of my friends, I'd be like, dog, what the fuck did you just say to me?
No, you
just say you don't like her, and that's why you kicked her out. If that's what you think, don't say that.
No,
you're putting that in my head now.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. I can see it from his side. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Destiny.
Yeah, I'm not accusing him of doing anything.
If he repeatedly, like his thing with Grace, like, okay, I don't really have a problem because we knew going into it, he's saying and his fans are saying, you could read it right in the chat. Oh, here's the next crazy girl.
We're only an hour into this stream. I thought I was expecting this stream to be like halfway over.
Right. And I tried to get on Destiny. It was about the Steven Crowder thing. I tried to talk with him. I tried to like pay money to get super chats. He didn't care. But Grace is 20. Someone must have told him like, oh, she's cute. This could be another like content thing for.
Ben has said, yeah, there we go. Saved all of the videos from Misunderstood. Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say now. What's up, Get Crack? I was gonna say something. I don't know.
You, and she gets up there. Okay, and so
Do I think Ben is toxic? I mean, I've said before, like I wouldn't want someone to talk to me the way that he talks to Grace, but everybody has like their own things, and ultimately, like, I mean, I don't like this. I think the struggle sessions are definitely toxic, at least a lot of the times. But yeah, I mean, to an extent, for sure.
Oh, and to some degree, this is based on like her sexual power, and she's sort of using that. Okay, but also we're aware because we've been around. Like, okay, but you're not gonna like have sex with Destiny for click.
I would really like to. What I would like to do sometime is, they have those things where they bring people in and you sit down like a bunch of people from like different backgrounds and stuff, and they show them like a TV show, and then you have to like give your thoughts on what you saw, but they try to pick like I don't know, like normie people as possible. we need to do one of those, except we need to show one of those focus group. That's what it's called. We need to show Thorp TV to a focus group and get like a genuine outside unbiased perspective on it.
It's like, what the hell, right? Like, that's so ridiculous. Although maybe he would do that.
Do I think that Ben is on the toxicity spectrum? Certainly, but I mean, I am. I think a lot of people are. But yeah, some of his behavior, certainly. Grace the same. I mean, everybody, Ruby, vegan patriot, everybody on YouTube that's like in this space definitely has toxic traits. That's what makes it's like the special ingredient in the content. What's up, Z?
I don't know that it's wrong.
Hey, Armand.
For her. Like, if she said, okay, well, I'll be like, if a girl says like, I am actually desperate for clout, I am mentally unwell, and like I will sleep with him. I don't know that it's wrong for him to. This is the thing with Darius. It's like he overtly says like my content is sleeping with mentally unwell women. I would never do anything like that.
Did he say that?
Well, but I mean, but people will say like, you know, the more mentally.
I felt like that based off of the old videos. I call them like the bored suburban family is what they seemed like to me. They seemed like, and I mean, there are a lot of weird families on TikTok and social media that are close to what the Thorps were like in the beginning when they had like the neighbors involved and stuff like that, and like they'd have friends on the stream, and they got into like some little rivalries. Like that stuff you see pretty frequently, and that just seemed like a family trying to like make money or whatever, like to me. So I kind of went into some of the newer stuff assuming that it was like when Grace pulls Courtney out by her hair, like that's clearly like fake or it's cooperative, as you'd say in the biz. But like I kind of came into the new stuff thinking like that it was gonna be scripted, and then like when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is actually like there's some real shit in here.
Unwell, but I do think he feels bad about it. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just so tricky when you're involved.
Grace was committing self-abuse while this stream was going on. Yeah, I think she said in the comment that she had been watching for 3 or 4 hours, so we're 15 minutes away from 3 hours, so we're heading right into the money zone.
Sexual
did
activity.
He say what you said, or did he say like, you know, crazy in the head, crazy in bed?
Oh boy.
Right, I think that's the sort of joke. But then it's like, actually, she's here. She does have like diagnosed, and you know, she was under like, she was on parole.
Ember, I do have to stand up for the people talking about the bean flicking, because the reason that we're watching this is because Grace sent me the link and said this is the famous Grace went for a wank stream. So I mean, I think she's okay with it.
Like openly, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, this will be
parole?
great content.
I saw clips of the Thorps back in the suburban family days, but like I said, the aesthetic didn't really appeal to me. So I saw clips off and on, but it was during like I saw the kick, and then I was like, it still kind of seemed, you know, it still seemed like they were cooperating. But then whenever I think it's Shamu posted the body cam footage of Ben out for the walk. And I was like, okay, so this is like, like they're getting arrested. Like clearly this is, at least some of this is real. So that's when I started watching. And then the stream that I reviewed on her birthday, she had the Trump shirt on and she was like manically cleaning. And then she had a breakdown at Burger King at the end of the day. That was the first live stream I watched, like, and I ended up watching it pretty much start to finish.
Probation?
Probation or something, and like she was like,
okay,
I don't know, in some form of an insane asylum, like, or a group home or something, you know. But while in college, like she had burned someone, you know, I don't know, something crazy where you'd say like red flag, red flag.
Are you talking about some random person with Darius, or are you talking about Grace?
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's shaming Grace for it. It's just lore. Like any time you can reference some Thorp lore, you just have to reference it.
Yeah. No. I mean,
okay.
Like this was after Grace, and we were watching his content. She was like one of his exes, but she never did anything with him other than kiss him. And like, you know, so it's like, to me, it's like, okay, you know, if you get your
Okay.
feelings hurt, you get your feelings hurt. But like, this is kind of a mixture of
Well, when I saw that, I wanted to find somebody that I could like follow like I did Blade, and then I saw that like no one was really doing like frequent updates on the Thorps. There would just be like big documentary videos, but like not a lot of daily update stuff. So I was wondering like at first if there was going to be enough content to do it, and then the big Saddam Hussein Osama bin Laden arrest happened, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely something that's it's gonna be like a bountiful, harvest.
content, and also, you know, she's a young single woman. She has every right to like sort of
Why are people interested in about her masturbating? Because it's Grace Thorpe.
be with a young man, and he's a charming young man. I don't have any problem with that. And if she wants to have sex with him, you know, that's up to her. But you know, I'd be careful not to like turn that into content. It's crazy. We get into all these lines. But you know, if you want to,
It's
you
probably
know,
not
I
good
get
for you
how
to do
you.
that.
Yeah,
Didn't Ben confirm last night that they were kicked off for bullying? And then he didn't really understand why that had happened, why they got kicked off for bullying, given what happens on like an average Lol Cow Live episode.
I would say right, and she didn't even come close to that. But I could see how someone who was
Thanks, Platinum. I do that just because I don't know. I can't explain it. I just feel like I could have a discussion with someone, like a longer discussion, but I just think like when I'm looking up a movie review, I'm normally like at the library or I'm at Walmart or I'm like on Amazon and I'm looking for to see if I should just even consider watching it. So like I just want something that's like super fast, so that's what I try to make.
less self-possessed might say, I am willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean literally just great. I think Grace is hot, so that's a natural like thing. Plus she's so like outwardly at least like anti-sex, so it's funny whenever her gooner side is pointed out.
For attention. And
The bullying guidelines on YouTube are total bullshit. I guess do you think it's because Lol Cow Live, like Keemstar would say, it is scripted, or it's we're all friends giving each other a hard time, whereas like in a who did misunderstood bully Ruby?
you know, I sleep around anyways. So, you know, whatever. Instead of just a Tinder date, a hookup, why don't I make a Tinder date hookup where I also can be like the ex? People do that. Darius is like, girls
I agree with that, Joe Shabatoni. That could be true because there are just like Juice was saying that the bullying rules are weird. The goon content rules are really weird. Like the things you can show and stuff is crazy as long as you frame it a certain way. Like this is a try on video. This is to learn about a product. It's not, for sexual, gratification or whatever. Like, but you have to really go out of your way to frame stuff. And I think Grace being in a bikini and getting body shamed heavy could have really, if like the right person at YouTube saw that, they would take that pretty seriously.
Xena, like she did porn, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, yeah, okay.
Stouffer's French bread pizza, yeah, and Marie Callender's frozen spaghetti and meatballs.
If you did porn, I don't see how sleeping with Darius is,
Yeah, we're still on the same career
really
path.
significantly different.
Yeah.
It's in a sense more noble because at least you're having sex off camera and then talking about it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know these worlds. Is he using her? Yes. Is she using him? Yes. Right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't think this is healthy stuff. I don't think you should have sex and then talk about it for your chat to be like, I just think the whole thing is kind of weird. But like, that's the world we live in. I think.
Well, they don't enforce it consistently, and like they're not. Half the time when something happens, like can't even find out why.
They're both responsible. They're both 27 years old, and then like giving her.
Well, yeah, you've seen probably some of the stuff we've watched in the later hours of the stream. Like it's that one cleaning lady, like that was wild, but like it's allowed because of the way that they frame it, and they go out of their way to put the big disclaimer at the front, like if you think this is sexual, you're the weirdo. This is just a how to clean a mirror video.
Or plan B afterwards and then talking about it. I don't know. I mean, at what point do you like go to the abortion clinic as content? You know what I mean? And like show the dead fetus if you can get a hold of it and go like, yeah, this is also content. I don't know. At a certain point, you'd have to say like something is way
Yeah, what is it? Stacy Lustful Official? Great content.
off here, or like I'm gonna have a baby for content. You know what I mean? And this is like the chat is like, here's this baby 9 months later.
I found somebody, she co-hosts a podcast that's fairly well known. Let me find it real quick.
It's content. You know what I mean? Here's the baby. I think that's really crazy, but where's the line? I don't know. And I think it's best to be extremely conservative with this stuff, and my daughter has been.
Apparently the best way to talk to YouTube support is through Twitter.
But I don't know that I would be able to say who's abusing who. And I don't know where Mr. Girl found the line there, because it's sort of like an abusive culture.
I think he recognizes that it is an abusive culture, and that's where his focus on the whole
Tea Time with Gary and Terry
parasociality thing comes from. He knows that in order to make
that, honestly, if I saw a video with that title, I would click on it because I would assume it was like an 80s public access show.
Money, he has to engage in some sort of parasociality, so he's done his best to limit it. I think he probably crossed over the line to where it's like, dude,
Trap Daddy in the chat.
You're not even gonna be able to do it if you don't take super chats and stuff.
Right. It's part of the thing. Okay, so you could say it's inherently abusive that I favor talking with people who, when they make a comment, also send money. Okay, but I mean, really? Like,
I mean, he has a little bit of depth
hang
to
on.
his reasoning.
Well, now see, I didn't know anything about this. So is there beef between Trap Daddy and the Thorps? What happened?
Well, I think he thinks that parasociality in and of itself is to some degree abuse the viewer.
Right. Okay. So, but now it's not clear that you can do anything on the internet because it's all parasocial.
It's tough.
I don't know how you define parasociality, but like
he's had a psychologist, I think, who like wrote like a paper about parasociality, tell him that like super chatting and stuff is fine, and he disagreed.
Yeah.
So I just think it's
interesting
I think he just
stuff.
made it.
No, I know who. If you're talking about me, I know who Trap Daddy is, but I didn't know there was beef with the Thorps.
There are new worlds. You know what I mean? Like so, like I had just a couple days ago.
Wait, hang on a second. Let me screen cap that pottery channel. There we go.
Or actually, this morning I had an interaction with a 25-year-old girl. I would call her girl because I'm so much older than her, but like she's a young woman.
I understand.
And like I want to kind of be her pimp, but I want her to, with my daughter and other.
How does that work? Isn't it like you can, if you're banned off of YouTube, like can you be on other people? Can you come on as a guest? You just can't like have a show. Is that how it works? I know there's some like esoteric way they approach that.
Girls create like a kind of new porn where they're actually like wearing nice traditional like sort of house.
Trap Daddy's the guy who got into it with was it he got into somebody's DMs, either Desi's or Kelly's or both, and had like a little run on Lolcow Live.
Made kind of uniforms and cleaning stuff and having men pay them to like clean and cook and bake, like a kind of trad porn that's actually not pornographic or degrading.
See, Ben gets it. That's what we watch at the end of the end of the stream sometimes.
At all, even though the men will be maybe
good girl trad gooner content.
Looking at it, but it's not inherent. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know whether that's
funny.
To me, it seems funny and interesting, and the men can yell at them and say like, "You missed a spot, bitch." You know what I mean? And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." You know?
Are you trying to get a boxing match with Ben, Trap Daddy?
You know what I mean? And it's like these are new areas. I think it would be fun for women who kind of want to like interact with men and become more feminine, which there is no small number of, who, of course they'd have to want to do it to be more feminine. But like, to me, the idea is like right now there are like male friendly.
The Keemstar loophole. That makes sense.
Women kink.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, I think that what's an interesting kind of like world is women who breastfeed adult men. It's not a small number of people who do this. It's in the hundreds of thousands, and there are websites. But here's what
You know what I think is funny about the whole Thorp thing and how they're handling the kick is that like you watch them on YouTube for like Grace comes on and she's like, "Hey guys, we're going to be here for half an hour." And then we're going to go to kick. That's the exact same strategy. And I think that might be an OPC Don thing. But that's the same strategy that the OF girls use. They'll go live on Instagram and be like, "Hey, we're gonna move the show over to the spicy room in like 20 minutes or whatever." So I think that's part of the OPC Don algorithm plan.
I would assume there are tiny number of women who want to do this and a ton of men who want to do this. Not true. A lot of women, and of course you can't breastfeed unless you've been pregnant, right? I mean, you have to, it has to be, but they kind of like, they love breastfeeding. And so like, these are not prostitutes. It's not for money, and it's not even necessarily sexual. And I don't know that it's necessarily wrong.
Did you ever
But
see
it's
Mr.
women who
Bill's thing
really
about
want to
breastfeeding?
keep breastfeeding, and men who say like, maybe I didn't get enough of my mother's milk and warmth. Oh, okay. I don't know that anyone's a loser here. I don't know that the police need to come in and go like, no, you can't do this anymore. It's weird, right? You laugh about it because it's like,
I didn't expect you to
really?
say that. Yeah, I was really caught off guard. It was very disarming.
You know, and then there are also on YouTube, there are like breastfeeding videos, which I understand. And Mr. Girl talked about this, like at a certain point, if that's a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, which you can make it, you can make an argument that breastfeeding a kid that old is like attachment parenting. It's definitely a thing. But when you get 25 million views, that's not like an instructional video. That's like a
There's
lot of
something-
people.
So with like what's his name, King Cobra, his channel got like terminated, like banned, right? So he just has to do like a horror maxer now and just ban evade. How's that gonna work? I guess he'd have to hope people would send him. But I mean, do people send him cash apps?
People who are getting off on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it makes it wrong.
Hey, Dante's Game Room. We'll be back to the VHS retro content tomorrow. We're just spending a couple days getting to know the mind of Ben Thorp.
It definitely rides a line.
I think the thing that makes it weird is that we don't want to talk about what's really going on. When people don't want to talk about what's really going on, when it's getting 25 million views, if you're like, well, obviously there's people getting off here, and like, oh, no, you're being weird, acting like that this isn't happening.
Yeah, I don't personally understand it. I never have.
Yeah, that's not a
Like-
desire for me at all. I like
You know?
titties, but I don't want anything to come out of them. I'll pass.
That's what I saw. I saw a couple videos from like reputable, well, I mean from the best, like, you know, King Cobra clippers that his channel got terminated.
On that.
Oh, I could see it. I mean, it's obviously what
I think it's valid. It's
breasts are
fine.
for, right? But when I've had
like milk.
kids, it's yeah. Well, you
So,
know, I don't know. Yeah, right.
It ruins the whole titty thing for me.
Well,
Even
you've had a taste. Am I right? You've had a taste, right? So we all married men have had a taste, just to say like, you know, well, let me get in there. And
Well, I agree on that. I don't think he probably was making much ad revenue, but like that's a layer of difficulty, right? Or was he not monetized? I thought, was he monetized before to where you could send super chats and stuff? I just feel like people who would send a super chat won't always send like a Cash App or a PayPal, especially a PayPal.
it's funny, right?
Oh no,
Ultimately, it's weird 'cause it's warm.
I never had my kid's mom's breast milk ever.
Never? Really?
She actually, it was really, I really fought her. She didn't breastfeed my kid, and I was really unhappy about it.
Oh, yeah.
But there's only so much of a fight that you can make on something like that because, like,
Yeah.
she's gonna do it or she's not. It's not like I
Right.
can take the titty off and give it to my kid.
No, yeah. Yep.
So, and I made every single bottle that my kid made. I said, fine, if you're not gonna be responsible for feeding my kid, I guess I.
Well, it also goes to show you like the temporary nature of like content. Like, you know, if somebody backs up, I'm sure in his case backs up everything, but like eventually, like you're just gonna trickle down to just clips of some stuff, and especially of like lower profile, you know, curiosities.
I am, and I just don't trust
But
you in this area.
you wouldn't pump either.
No,
The Thorps are wanting to come out to Las Vegas with, you know who you should box, Trap Daddy, is Jedi Rich.
My
Oh,
kid had formula, and I was really pissed about it because it's important.
and it was just a psychological block. It wasn't a physiological thing. Like some women.
my kid had trouble. My kid had trouble
Was it the breastfeeding that led to it? Oh no, that'd be interesting.
latching, and she took it
Yeah.
all personal.
That'd be pretty. That'd be very. A psychologist would love to pour over that.
And she's just like, nope, I'm not fucking
Ah,
doing this. And so
that's
I
interesting.
made
Yeah,
every
yeah,
bottle
yeah.
that my kid had. I didn't change as many diapers for sure. I'm pretty adverse to like germs. So I changed some. It's not like I didn't change any. I will give her that credit, but I made every single.
Although Jedi Rich is looking pretty lean, really lean these days. So we need to kind of beef him up a little bit to get him ready for Trap Daddy. What's up, King TL? Did most of Ben and Grace's income from donations? I don't ever remember, or very infrequently, ever getting an ad on Thorp TV.
Single bottle.
I mean, I have premium on most of my stuff, but like I watch it a lot of other people's houses and stuff when I'm showing them, and I don't ever remember ads coming up.
That my kid had the entire time my kid had bottles.
It's interesting. There's like actually a.
I would think most of it, if they were able to monetize the live streams, were like limited monetization, which is like a fraction.
Movement of Catholic women called the La Leche League. It doesn't really have to do with Catholicism, but they really see it as like their mission in life to help women, like, because it is a real problem. I don't know whether it's like in some way a psychological problem, but there is a lot, I think, there is a lot of like modern women have some. It doesn't come as naturally to them what maybe used to come more naturally, and so like breastfeeding, which you'd say, I heard someone.
Man, it sounds like this guy you're talking about, Laughing Cedar, is really a determined individual.
Today saying like, well, that's the easiest thing in the world. There's the sucking instinct, and then the breasts just make milk. It is.
She has so many pay pigs behind the scenes. They are good. Trust you. All right. So you think that, well, I can see that. So you think there are people who are donating via like Cash App and PayPal who are saying like, hey, here's money, but don't tell the chat. Don't let them know who's sending you money.
It's not that easy.
It's learning on both sides.
It can be really, really, really difficult. And like what Grace and her mother went through, and this isn't like something that's like embarrassing. Grace would be it was like a fight. Grace was like voraciously trying to like, it was like a tug of war to get the milk. And so, but she would drink way too much of it and then throw it up. And like then it would cause the breast to overproduce.
Oh boy, we better bring this up to Jedi Joy and get her take on this. Grace overindulging on breast milk.
Right? And it's like this.
Oh no. Oh, she said she'd been watching for 3 hours at least, so we're still 6 minutes safe.
It's this crazy kind of thing. Like, well, you girls got to work it out.
Yeah, I think so. Get crack. I think that's why I was saying earlier, like people are probably much more likely to send in a super chat or a Cash App, but like I think the PayPal's probably a reach for a lot of people.
But now I can see like that should have been a red flag. Like there's a problem here. From like
King, you're not guilty of that because you tell everybody when you do it, like right now.
Day one, but I was like, well, I don't know. I assume like whatever. Like
We're talking about people we don't know about at all. Like not people that we know. We just don't know how much.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I
don't
should
do
take more
that.
interest in it.
Yeah.
But then you end up with this position where like actually her breasts are so full that they need to be relieved, and I'm like, well, I'll help you out. You know, why squirt it into the sink? You know, this is kind of funny, but then you're like, okay, well, you know,
I understand.
why am I drinking a cow's milk that's been homogenized when there's like, this must be good for you, right? It's made for people, but whatever, you know what I mean? Then it gets weird, kinky, and you know, you can't keep it going. But it used to be.
This is a real journey we're on here with Ben since he started this breast milk arc.
That wet nurses, you know, were a common thing. You could have a career, like from your tits, and it wasn't always based.
I think
sometimes
so,
like
Joe.
old men, and I'm not sure that wouldn't be medicine. You know what I mean? For someone who's like having trouble digesting, all these people with all these digestive diseases, breast milk might help them. But I understand that in our world, it's like, oh my God, we don't want to sell like body fluids as like a commodity or like turn women into like cows, basically. But then again, some women are into it.
Only blood, plasma, and semen, please. Thank you.
Right. But it's interesting if women are into it. And I understand it could be a problem because drug addicts could then become pregnant so that they can.
Grace should add that to her soundboard. Oh God, I'm terrible at this. My hands like there. I just got to hear him say it again.
It's like, oh my God, we don't want to sell like body fluids as like a commodity or like turn women into like cows, basically. But
Yeah,
then again, some women are into it.
Only blood, plasma, and semen, please. Thank you.
Right.
King, we know that that being exposed as a donator is part of your thing. We're cool with it.
But it's interesting if women are into it. And I understand it could be a problem because drug addicts could then become pregnant so that they can like start milk, like, you know what I mean? And then that.
Laughing Cedar, I think that's the best way to go, because even if he took all the rest of the money, like if he took more money, he'd have been like miserable and felt like, you know, probably like ethically compromised all the time.
That's not good milk if it's like someone who's doing drugs. But well, you know.
Thanks, Trap Daddy.
Whatever. It's like the same problem with plasma. It's the same problem with blood donation, right? That's like paying people for their bodily fluids can be problematic. But I don't know. Like, what are you going to do when there's no when there's no baby formula, when that all dries up because the corporation's fucked up? Like, I'm not so sure that a baby should die of starvation because, you know, we have these like sort of puritanical rules about like not selling breast milk.
It's weird.
It's weird. It gets into all sort of weird territory.
Hey, Stinky Brew.
I mean,
it's kind of interesting.
Maybe there's some arguments with like regulation of it and stuff. You don't want somebody who's doing meth to sell their breast milk and stuff.
Yes.
And if you
definitely
smoke meth and you're pregnant,
Is that true, Joe?
you probably want some extra money. So
yeah, right.
So
and semen
it's
too.
Tough.
Semen, you shouldn't sell semen.
I promise you,
like
my meth head ain't going to the fucking sperm clinic. They ain't getting their dick up, buddy. That shit kills your boners.
Oh yeah. Right. Okay, so that one might be self-regulating, but I'm saying
But yeah.
There's a problem. There are all sorts of problems.
I mean, business-wise, that's the way to be. It's you can argue, I guess, ethics or whatever, but I think that's to me where some streamers become kind of entertaining in a way, because like they'll want to celebrate their successes and play up like the nice shit they've got, but at the same time they know if they do that, like that's risking their donations going down. So there's always like those funny streamers that act like they're always kind of like just getting by, but then someone in chat will say something that like makes them feel a certain way, and they'll bring up like, oh no, I made this much last month, and then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
The sperm donation.
Yeah.
Such as like, what if two women in a geographical area
TK and embarrassment. See, we know that's part of it, King. We're happy to help you with it.
use your sperm and then those kids meet each other, right? How you should be. You shouldn't be like, you know what I mean? You shouldn't be making a lot of women in a small geographical area pregnant because.
Wow, Owen Benjamin bringing together Laughing Cedar and It's Me. That's the real lesson of this stream.
There could be a kind of unintended incest that occurs because those kids are going to be attracted to each other. They're going to be like, oh, you're just like me. You know what I mean? And that's a tragic situation to end up in, where you have like a birth defect. Or, you know, I don't know. It's just this.
Yeah, that's
when
weird.
we change the rules, it gets weird. And I find it interesting because I actually think all of these experiments confirm tradition, including your experiment. But if you say, that's working out for me great, Ben, then, you know, what am I going to say?
Yeah, like a lot of things that I do that's outside of the norm, I don't necessarily advocate for. I tend to advocate for people to fuck off and let me live my life. I'm much more on that part. Like, don't tell me that I'm wrong just because you don't like it. But I'm not going to tell you that you have to live my way either.
Right. But I would actually argue that like society does have a right to regulate these things. Because,
I was going to say, yeah, Ben's not going to be down with that idea.
But like,
it might, but I'm going to fight it.
Sure. And that
this guy's like, hey, listen, you do what you want to do and I won't mess with you. Don't mess with me. I'll do what I want to do. And Ben's like, well, I would argue that I should decide what we both do.
You know, and we'll see how
that's
that
how
goes.
it should be, right?
Think...
They should push on me and I should push back.
Right. And maybe you'll lose though.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then I really can't fucking do nothing about it, but I'm going to fucking fight my best fight to live my life the way I should.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No getting around that. If like, for example, I'm opposed to abortion, but like
And like he doesn't actually, he's just a reactor, right?
I'm not a pro-lifer in the sense that I don't think like
But he's a reactor who doesn't allow people to react to his content, like infamous for doing takedowns.
like fucking with the Supreme Court just to get
I think he's hit ZXV that multiple times.
like to get a ban happen that people don't want. It's not going to solve the problem because people are going to find ways around it. It's almost impossible to ban abortion because you have chemical abortion now. Like there's no way you're going to put the toothpaste back in the tube. So
Right.
you have to convince people that pregnancy
I think
is not what it's been made out to be, which is like this curse for women, that it's like fun to be pregnant, even if you were raped. And of course we should help you out, but like it's 9 months, it's good for you. And it's a beautiful thing, and you
Oh.
don't want to be a murderer. Okay, but I don't want to get into it with you, like, but like I'm saying, like, okay, until
Yeah.
we make that argument that it's not taking from you to be pregnant as a woman, it's actually and in 99.9% of the case, it's like because of your own behavior. The rape thing is very, very rare. That like, okay, so we got to make the case. And it's just going to be some people making the case, other people pushing back again.
This is an absolute Ben lore showcase. I mean, you get a crash course on Ben's brain in this panel.
Against it.
now
And that's where we're at.
I just gotta say there's a lot of things that I
Yes. Yes, Trap Daddy, if you're still here, that's who you should box. Matt would take you on.
think you and I could have a fruitful conversation debates about. But because this is, I've asked you like clarifying questions or like maybe shared a little bit just so we can establish some rapport and stuff. Like I disagree with a lot of stuff that you've said, but I'm fine with disagreeing with it. I don't want this to be just like me and you like debating about things because I actually think you're probably are going to disappoint a lot of people with this conversation because I think you've been a pretty normal, rational person. I think that some of the choices of words that you've used are a little bit. I think it's fun, but I think you're going to make some people mad with some of the things. But I think there are people that are already mad at you.
Yeah, I mean, this you're not pushing me into blood sports, so
There we go. So we're still not halfway through. We're just 3 hours of the way through.
like compared
Right.
to my normal interaction, people are like, yeah, you could almost say disappointed that it's not like, where's the screaming and yelling?
This is what I wanted to see from you, though. I
Ember says she loved being pregnant, felt the sexiest then. Wow.
wanted to know who you actually are, how you actually are when there's a real conversation in front of you,
Yeah.
and not like I see this thing that happens a lot. Did you ever see the stuff with Lavloon?
I can't play it on 2x speed. I can't do it. Even like when Ava was playing Darius at like I don't even know if it was at 2, but it was just like I couldn't deal with it.
She goes by
I saw
Femoid
some
now.
of
Get Crack, you got to realize I've been hitting this indica for an hour and a half. Like my brain's the wheels are turning very slowly. I have to have time to like absorb everything.
but I actually personally interacted with Lavloon for like
Plus, then the Thorps would say that would criticize me by saying I shouldn't really criticize if I can't, if it sounds like they're talking like Looney Tunes. How can I really be taking it seriously?
quite a while.
Yeah,
Like
I'd
6
say
hours
that
or
like
so.
Lav and I are pretty cool. We've always been pretty cool with each other. I first reached out to her and said, "Look, I just want to see what you're like when there's not a fucking gun."
Now the 2x speed Get Crack is available on Kick.
Your head because every
Yeah.
time I see you, you're fucking drowning. You got like 6 people
Right.
yelling at you, and then like they get super mad when you change your mind about something. But like, I don't even know how you can fucking track the conversation when this is going on. So I just want to see who
Right.
you are without without all this.
Yeah, I'm not knocking anybody who prefers it, but like my brain, it doesn't. I like you said, like if you're looking for something specific, but like just listening to it, I couldn't listen to like a podcast sped up. I don't think I'd feel silly.
Fucking chaos being thrown at you nonstop.
Yeah.
Because it seems like they're setting you up for disaster, and then they criticize you for the disaster that
Yes.
happened when they created it.
True, Randy.
But she also, I see this. I also don't understand.
This
with
was in the
Mr. Girl.
beginning.
I think one of the big things that sparked Mr. Girl to like question things was Lavloon. I think Lavloon is chaotic. I think she
Yeah.
does create chaos in order. I don't even know what her motivation is. I think in some sense she's just openly trolling. Other times she can be perfectly reasonable,
The chat censor is sensitive. What happened?
talking about transgenderism and things like that. But I don't think she gives a shit whether it's that, because with me, she started doing I started doing daddy-daughter stuff with her, and it was funny and fun, but
Lalo said it's all business for. He's like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money.
like, uh, is that really, you know what I mean? Like, uh, and then she, kind of called me a rapist or whatever, and it's like, okay,
Oh,
What?
I know what you're talking about. But like, it's not anything that's prosecutable. If I say like, she's saying, oh well, I'd tie you up, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm into that. But then I'd break the ropes, and I'd break what you tied me up with, and chase you into your house and break your door down. Right? It's all sort of like fantasy play.
Sure.
I don't know. And then she's like, oh, that's gross. You're creepy. Okay, I don't know. I don't even know what we're doing. But like, okay, if you want to do this, I can do it. And it's kind of interesting. But
Sure.
like, what is the point here? What is the point? Is this a debate? Is this just vetting me? Whatever. And I don't think she knew what she was doing. She was just like, okay, this guy's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting character. He comes across as like hypersexual. I don't think she really thought in the end that I was like a dangerous person, but she just likes fucking around, and
She doesn't delineate from when she's fucking around and when she's serious very well.
yeah.
She doesn't
And
really
like,
signal it to people, which I think causes a lot of the problems that people
and I
have
don't
with
even
her.
know if she's married, because I would treat a married person differently. I respect marriage.
You think OPC is doing this behind the scenes? He's like, gosh, Lalo, I wouldn't attach this to your brand. Remember, you got 120 views on that one video, and then you went on the Thorps, and your next one, 200 views. He was really running with that theory. Maybe he's been doing a long con on Lalo.
think
I would
she's
treat a married
engaged.
person differently, but like, she's been engaged, but how long can you be engaged for? Like,
Well, why? Okay, so why doesn't Grace agree? Bring Lalo on for like 2 hours, and everybody just agree no one will donate during that time.
10 years.
Hmm.
But like, what are you doing? Like, but it's not my business. But
He
like,
was engaged for
what kind
4.
of an engagement do you have that you can be like flirting with this man in this way? Maybe it's fine.
True,
I
he
don't know.
was.
I will flirt with married women, but I don't want to cause problems in their marriage. But like, I think it can be okay. But I would say sending dick pics to a married woman, to me, is, but then again, there are married women like you.
I was gonna say, didn't he get? Oh, it was broken. I remember he got him like a microphone or some kind of streaming equipment.
Your marriage is like, oh, like, could tolerate that, right? Like, it's like, okay. And I don't know, maybe you would even want to see the dick pic. I don't know how that works, but I'm just saying, if you're a traditional person and you're married, like, I don't want to fuck with your marriage.
Sure.
But it's a weird place where the lines are, but I don't know that she even knows what she's doing. I think she's just fucking around. And I don't really understand how Mr. Girl comes in and says she was abused. She's aware of her sexual power.
Well, that way we get the Lalo content, but Lalo doesn't get anything, which is, I think, the way that we all like it.
She uses it in a way that I think is fairly transparently sort of Machiavellian. She's
I have
pretty.
privileged
ahead.
information. I can't really comment on that stuff. I think that it's
Yeah.
complicated and it's.
And she
it's
told me
rough.
stuff about how Destiny did X, Y, and Z for
Okay.
this many
you
hours.
for
I
being-
don't
thank
know
you
if
for
that's
being
even
vague.
true. I don't even know if that's true. I would assume it's just all whatever.
Well, this would be if they unionized, like the second Thorp Pay Pig Rebellion.
Ever on the internet, like, she's just busting his balls on the internet, and like, I don't take it
Kinda.
as more likely to be true than not. I don't know, and I don't really care.
Sure.
but
I just
didn't
wanted to
make
use her
me
as an
feel like-
example.
It didn't make me feel like she's like a child who's been
The only stuff on that's available, I was gonna say, but I was gonna ask you what was available to watch of it.
brought into a world where she has no idea what's going on. She's fully aware that she is a very attractive, sexually.
Of course, OPC would be a scab. He would be. He's like the. I don't know. Ben said he's like whatever the opposite of, or I guess you just say he's bad at being Machiavellian, unless his goal is to like hamstring the Thorps.
She knows how to be sexually, provocative.
She's porn.
She's done porn, but I understand in another way she was abused, like, by her parents, and there was like some crazy shit that went on. but she's done porn. She's somewhat seasoned. She should know what she's doing.
I just think
And
she's done
I
porn
don't.
to add to, like, obviously she understands that she has some level of sex appeal, that there's a market for like what she's
Yeah,
putting out there. That there's
right.
that I can't deny it. But
And
also
if she wants to do daddy daughter play with me on a stream, I assume she understands that like that's public and I'm allowed to play the dad or whatever, the whatever creepy guy.
Dad hat for
And
sure.
like no one really loses. I'm not sure how productive it is. It's not really
Dang.
my thing, but like it's funny. People like to watch it.
and it's a little more
Uh
leaning into the whole uh I guess like the running gag that you have.
This is the year of OPC. I highly doubt it.
you mean like the incest stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, it
Yeah,
extends
I mean
out from that too. It's not like it's like you're like the thing that like so like there's the incest thing, but like you also extend it out to like other things for like what I keep assuming to be like the joke of it. So like if you can extend it out to like connect it to me because it's funny. I think it's funny because I don't
to me
think
Oh, he's on BitChute. Who else do we know that went? Don't we know somebody else who went to BitChute? I can't remember who it was though.
because I don't think that it. I don't think there's no reason for me to believe that you and Grace have had any
Oh no, didn't Hormaxer go there? Try to go there for a while.
sexual contact. I haven't seen anything that convinced me of that. So when
yeah,
you
right.
guys say stuff like this, I think of it as a joke. And like you're on the internet. After the joke's been known, you kind of extend it out and morph it into other like parts of the
There
joke.
is a certain tension, obviously. It's unusual situation.
Has been progressing or degressing since then. I mean, I think the RV has taken a toll on us all, and certainly on Ben and Grace. I think Ben is probably in a less stable overall vibe at this time. Currently, he's not like he's so relaxed here. It's almost like off-putting. Like he just seems so chill here.
For a
Yeah,
grown man with
how
6
else
kids
do you
to be
deal with
living
that?
only with his daughter, and where she's like super attached to him because like they've both been through a lot of trauma, and she openly like sleeps on my floor in my bedroom, even though she has a bedroom of her own. Okay, I understand that that's unusual. It's not like there's obviously this kind of like something weird has gone on that we end up in that situation. I should be living
Did old boy fall asleep? What's going?
with the normal situation, in my opinion, is that I would be living with the mother of my children. We would be in a bedroom together, and my children would be living with us. Okay.
What a generous person OPC Don is. Hey, I'm willing to build the Thorps a house as long as you guys pay for everything. What a generous character. And he's got a girlfriend? Yeah, I'm sure.
Sure.
So obviously, it's not a normal situation. I'm not saying this is a normal situation, and there are tensions. Okay, but the idea, what I say to people is, tell me any other scenario in which the perpetrator
It's like when people applaud like the retail stores for donating money to charity when it's your money from like the checkout when it asks if you want to donate $1.
of a crime and the victim of the crime say like there is no crime which occurred whatsoever, though there are like kind of tensions, and that someone is still like, no, that
Okay, Grace is delivering food at 3 hours and 7 minutes. Do you think that her bringing out food makes it more or less likely that the golden moment has happened?
that's not okay. Where both people are adults, and
See if we can get a look at her pupils.
where you know what I mean. There is the police are never going to pursue larceny where the person who supposedly stole
No, what's going to happen is they're going to, in some unbelievable miracle, Ben and Grace's chat is going to raise $160,000, and then OPC is going to abscond with the money like out of country with his new girlfriend, who is Ruby, by the way.
something, says I didn't steal it, and the person who was stolen from says he didn't steal it from me. There's no further questions asked at that point. You know what I mean? You have to come up with theories that actually.
I think it's after this. I agree, Juice. I think it's after because I think this is what gives her, this is her smoke screen. So now she knows that he's not going anywhere because he's anchored because of not only the interview but the food. So now she's got a window of opportunity.
Make no sense of human nature. at that point to say like, okay, you're covering because you have Stockholm syndrome, and this is where I think the psychobabble doesn't make much sense. If
That's
you're
the type of
talking
thing.
about an adult,
They should have played that into the kick thing, Joe, and been like, "Hey, we're gonna review OPC's new girlfriend, but oh, hold on a second, we're getting a notice. We're running out of time on YouTube. We'll see everybody over on Kick for the big girlfriend reveal."
if you're talking about a scenario in which the other person is completely free to,
Well, yeah, they live in an RV, but they have an apartment, and they also have a studio, but they can't sleep at the studio, and they're scared of their neighbor at the apartment, so they live in the RV. Yeah.
leave,
Well, yeah, well, they'd say like
I
Stockholm
just don't.
syndrome, grooming, these kinds of things can
Yeah, and hotels. Yeah.
lead to this even as an adult. They having this sort of attachment to where like nothing that's bad that's done to them would make them feel
Right.
like they can leave. Sure,
But the
I
flip
don't
side, but the
see
flip
that.
side of that is that you then have to have a theory that like a grown woman can for years, you could write off any woman as being controlled by a man, and you're almost treating women like they're not human
I mean,
beings.
I know a woman
Like-
who has been in an abusive relationship physically, every kind of
Well, Steve and David, you're questioning one of like the top cast members of Thorp TV.
abuse you can imagine, and she
Yeah.
still stands by this guy. And the guy's not even like he doesn't even shy away from it. It's crazy.
Yeah, Jacinda. They had issues with Jacinda, and supposedly was it Ben slapped? No, Jacinda hit Ben, supposedly. So they don't want to go back there. Grace has said, I think, I'm trying to remember her reasoning. I remember one time she was saying it made her uncomfortable because there were cameras and she didn't want to be on camera while she was walking in and out of the apartment, which I thought was kind of weird, but you never know what makes people uncomfortable.
I've always let her know, like, hey, look, just so you know, like, if you ever need any help, like, let me know.
But
like-
at that point, she's not a victim, right? So you might agree with her
it's
or
tough.
disagree with her, but she's not a victim. She's making a choice as an adult that may be a stupid choice.
Yeah,
But
there is a certain point
it's
where I have
her
to step back
choice.
and just say, like, she knows how I feel. She knows that if she needs help, that we got her back. But like, there's really no point in me talking to her.
Right. I mean, I think the reality of a lot of these like abuse prevention centers for women, and
Oh, Ben's okay, so they can't go back to the apartment because Ben's been given the green light.
domestic violence stuff is it's just part of a whole unhealthy. What do you call it when two people are unhealthy?
That's why Trap Daddy's been hanging out. He's coming around to collect.
Like it's called codependent relationship.
Oh,
right? In
sure.
which
Okay.
this like the idea like yeah, there may be abuse that happens, there may be physical violence on one or both sides, but it's like it's so deeply entwined in unhealthiness that people are addicted to that really you can't help them from the
Hashtag Jacinda always wins.
outside.
I don't know if abuse.
They
comes
wanna
without
do it.
blaming.
Remember when she did that great interview with Ava? That was so entertaining.
The abuse shelter is about just letting people know that if they do want to get out, that they don't have to like achieve a bunch of things to get out. That there's a way out
That was a big Ava W getting the Jacinda interview.
for them that's like free available to.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm opposed to them, but I'm saying I think I've talked to people who worked in them. A lot of times it's just like it's part of the whole thing to like tease the guy and you know what I mean, and like threaten him that they're going to go right back to him. You know, like I think there's a just like with drug abuse, like there's rate of
can't-
recidivism is super duper high.
Yeah, I can't say that I don't think that. Like I know people that have done things like that as like a weird power play.
Yeah.
Or even like a suit.
I saw that he was in chat. I didn't see him up on panel, but I saw when he was talking in chat, and I noticed that one phrase that Ben put in the chat that stuck out was he said Lynx is horny, HORNAAAY or something like that.
Pseudosexual thing to like fame
Yes.
leaving and stuff. Yeah, I know this.
The cops can be brought in as a kind of form of weird BDSM, right? To say like
Sure.
and
yeah.
now right? And then
There's
the
no
cop feels
intention
like
of
what am I
leaving
doing here?
whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I don't know how normal that is or whatever. If you're saying that you've heard that, like I wouldn't be surprised that you've heard that. I would say that the people that do that, shame.
I remember that was like one of very few Thorp related police departments that cooperated with me and actually sent me the stuff, and that was like one of my first like halfway useful contributions to Thorp lore was getting the getting the police report. Jacinda's absolutely content gold, yeah.
You shouldn't.
I think
be-
a lot of police officers feel like a lot of their time is spent in situations in which like there's no clear right or wrong, and they're just being, you know what I mean? But they can't help but do their job. Of course, there should be like there should be laws against certain types of things, but at a certain point, if both people want to do it because they're deeply unhealthy, I don't know that a cop can really,
Yeah.
you know, because he's like, you know, they sort of roll their eyes and go, "We'll see you in a week," with just more of the same shit. But why don't you fucking leave the guy? Why don't you fucking leave the guy?
Well,
right?
just be
We're in
clear. I
America.
don't think that that's what's happening with you guys. I think that you guys, it seems like you guys have been through some shit,
Yeah.
and that you both are pretty okay making jokes. Like I make jokes about all the worst things that ever happened to me. And like if like my grandmother was still around, she'd be like, "You shouldn't joke about that." I'd be like, "Well, I'm gonna fucking joke."
And didn't like at one point when they were getting along, I think Ben was saying that like the Thorps would take Jacinda to the weed dispensary. Like can you imagine those streams?
You know, I don't know what you want. I don't know. What you
Yeah,
want from me.
it's
I'm gonna
part
do
of the
it.
thing is we live in a society in which a lot of things that used to be seen as normal are no longer normal. And like I just think
Like masculinity,
we have to be like
fatherhood,
willing to have a sense of humor about like where it puts us. It's
Ed Hardy type hats.
weird. There are just some weird things. Like if a girl is one day shy of her 18th birthday, doesn't tell me that she is, and I send her a dick pic, I could be charged with a federal.
Starts out nice, yeah. Starts off nice, and then the next thing you know, she's calling you a simp and then telling you that you're going to make a clip called Trad Girl Calls Me a Simp.
Crime. The next day, I can have sex with her, anal sex, oral sex, 10 guys, and publish it on the internet on Pornhub and make $1 million from it. That's a weird society. I get how everyone's like kind of trying to make sense of it, and it's tough to, but it leads to strange situations.
Yeah, that's why I just
And-
say whatever the law is, I don't care. Just follow the law because if the people, if
What I think it was funny about the Avis, I agree about bringing in outside people, but one thing I remember that was kind of funny about the Ava situation is that when I put that video out, reading the police report, Ava was still denying that she was involved. So like she's in the comments saying that like it was a good video, but that I was wrong. And then of course we know now she's admitted it since.
the law is like 16 and people think that the law's letting them fuck kids, they'll flip over police cars, they'll burn down the courthouse. People aren't okay with people fucking kids. And if they think the law's letting them do that, they're going to freak the fuck
No, I think Junk's talking about when Ava involved the guy from Grindr at the hotel.
out, and they're going to take that fight to the law. So like everything else is arbitrary. It's the only thing that I can lean on and say like, all right, we have a rule on the books for it. Just go by that. I don't give a shit. This is the rule.
But people want to make the age of consent 21 or 25 because
you know
of this
what?
frontal lobe thing. And I'm like,
If they can get it in the books, fuck it, whatever. I don't care. But you got to convince a lot of people to
I
do
care.
it.
I
And
think it's crazy.
I care.
well, yeah, I don't think it'll happen though. That's what I'm
I
saying.
care what people in their 20s
You know,
are
I don't
doing
know.
with their
I mean, I do
bodies.
think we like these are. It is like it is.
See how many
important
people
to
wanna
ask
stay
the
in that
question of
state.
like. Yeah, I don't think people have made that like.
I know Ben kind of labels himself as a liberal, which I don't think is accurate at all, but like has he ever is that the only like political kind of thing he's labeled himself as?
Is that there are no incest laws in Rhode Island. Like we in New Jersey have like decriminalized it. I think, which I actually agree with in the sense that I don't think most people in incest situations are like criminals who are. I mean, they're unhealthy and they like it should be like.
Yeah, on its face, I don't
destigmatized
give
in
a
the
shit
sense-
about it.
in the sense like you should go seek therapy. I don't think most people are like, you know what I mean? Like that's why I don't understand. Like even if this allegation was true, especially for people to be angry and yell at Grace, doesn't make any sense.
Like if you were in a waiting room in like kind of a fairly busy doctor's office and you just started playing this over the speakers, how long do you think it would take this panel like discussion before somebody got up and like complained about it? Because if you can just tune out the content and just listen to like the cadence and the flow of the dialogue, like it's a pretty chill conversation. But if you actually pay attention to it, like the tone is so off from the content sometimes.
And so that's why I think it's like more like envy or something like that.
If people
But,
really believe
you know-
that, you're the only person they should have an issue with.
Right, and they shouldn't be screaming like they're not doing her any favors by screaming about it and telling the whole world about it, because it's embarrassing to her, right? To have this
Yes.
as her reputation, right? So have some fucking dignity. And if whatever, let's say it was going
Have some
on and it's
dignity.
purely consensual, then like, okay, well, she's gonna have to come figure that, like, right, like incest is not so. It's a weird thing to say. Like, it seems to me like a lot of people are saying like, I want to do that too, but I restrain myself from doing this. Why would you want to do that? It's disordered.
Ben did confirm once again that he wants Grace to go on Fish Tank. I will be so stressed if Grace is on Fish Tank. I'll lose my mind.
I'm in no way advocating that incest is a good idea. It's patently not a good idea, reproductively, or I think also interpersonally because of power dynamics and all
Lobster
the
trap.
rest. There's nothing good about it, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's kind of like people are like, you bastards are getting away with that, even though there's no evidence for it. But it's like, well, even if we were getting away with it, why would you be angry? It's like crazy. Wouldn't you say thank
If Grace goes into the Fish Tank, if she makes it onto the show, OPC Don has to agree to go in with me. We'll pay the $1,000 and go for a day, and we will be we'll go for 1 day as freeloaders into the tank.
God? I don't like, it's like with me with homosexuality. I don't envy homosexual people. I think gay sex is brutal. It's you know what I mean? And you can't produce children from it in a natural way. I don't secretly envy gay guys who go to prop.
Nobody wants to see their favorite character like, under heavy fire.
Provincetown and have sex with hundreds of guys. Like, I pity, I empathize. Like, I wouldn't want my son to.
You do make some money. You can win competitions or agree to do different tasks to get fish bucks, which I think are like $100 a piece. I could be wrong. I think they're $100. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how. People claim there's an underground network of pay pigs, but I don't know how much they make, but I probably think she couldn't make as much, but maybe Ben could make up for it by like live streaming, like live reacting to the feed on Fish Tank.
Like, but like, I think these guys, I'm not angry at them. I don't want to go to Provincetown and go like, how come
Yeah, we'll have to stop by Hooplandia.
you guys can have all the fun and I have to follow the rules? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? If I did feel like that, I think it would mean I'm probably gay.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm just repressed gay. But I don't feel like that at all. I don't
So many great clippable moments.
envy men who have like, especially
How would Ben
who have,
survive?
which is a thing in gay culture, like short, violent sexual encounters with many, many, many partners. There's
Oh
no
my
way
gosh,
in
my
which
ribs.
that's like enviable.
Oh
don't-
my
brutal.
gosh.
I think that it makes sense why you would think it is envy. I think
I think they will put Ben in that scenario unless they say they have to go in like they're a bonded pair. They have to go, they have to leave the adoption center together. But I would think they would probably be very inclined to take Ben. I don't know about. It just depends on how Grace presents, I guess. But then again, I'm forgetting that like Sam's already aware of who they are.
that rather than envy, I just think that people feel like if they don't say something about it, that people are going to accuse them of being cool.
Yeah,
And they don't want to deal with that. It's just performative
that's a kind of
outrage.
like like I would call it like a Pharisaism. It's like because we're all so afraid. I think almost all Americans do stuff.
Okay, here's the question. If OPC Don and I were to go in for a day as freeloaders, would you want me to betray OPC Don inside the house somehow, or would you want me to uphold loyalty so that to the outside world we can project that the Thorp community is united?
Which in the 1950s would have been seen as like
Constantly threatening to leave. demanding concessions, he would tell Sam that he was Palestine.
Unbelievably scandalous, right?
I'm being blockaded.
Even
Sure.
like the pornography we look at in the 1950s, if you were looking at that kind of pornography, like
No, I think that would help. I think that's one reason Ben would get put on is because of that, Candy.
it wasn't even possible to. You'd have to be in the most like crazy place on earth to see
Yeah,
the
back
kind
alley
of stuff
deals and
that is
stuff.
Eventually on Fish Tank, toward the beginning, everybody is kind of chill, but you have to have those like effective instigators, and Ben could fill that role like perfectly.
yeah, right, like some sort of like third world like slave camp orgy, right? Would this be going on? And even there, probably not. But like that's normal now. And I think we feel a lot of shame about it without saying it. But it's also been normalized. And like we have no idea how to make sense of it because it's so crazy. And yet, like, we want to feel like, okay, I'm not a bad person. And I think that's true.
That's what it is though. If
I think what everyone would really want to see is for me to be like somehow hinder Grace in the game, as I think would be the most popular move.
I don't say if I don't accuse Ben Thorpe of grooming and by proxy raping his daughter, then people might think that I want to fuck my kids,
Right.
and I need
Right.
everybody to know that I don't want to fuck my kids. So therefore, I'm gonna
Oh my
call you.
God!
And that's
Wow.
the thing that got me too, is that I've never
But why
seen
do you need
anybody
to
bring
say
it
that? I
up
don't know.
because
why
people
do
are
you need to say that?
insecure. I think part of it is how
What even
vitriolic
is
internet
this
culture is, that
discussion?
people are so. I think part of it is fear. People have seen people get canceled over and over. People have seen people that who were found innocent
Yeah.
get canceled and not recover from it. So that's part of it. But also, even before like canceling became really big, it was like 8 or 9 years ago.
You mean would I betray Grace in the Fish Tank?
I seen like the first thing I ever identified with Mr. Grow with, and I was like, oh, I really get that. I seen this post that said like I have your cure for pedophilia right here or something, and it was like a wood chipper or a shotgun. It's been so long now.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, you guys, we're talking about, and I was reading the comments, I was like, we're talking about people that have like hurt kids, right? Not just people that have like thoughts or feelings. And people are like,
Yeah.
no, all of them. I'm like, you guys are fucking crazy. You want to kill people for shit
Right.
they haven't done? Like, and like, I'm not saying
Right.
I agree with killing anybody, period. Because I don't. I think that there's like better ways to handle this in general.
Well, I mean, I subscribe to the savvy guy theory that it's you have to be chosen. You don't choose.
Right.
But like that freaked me out. That was my first time I ever really understood that people thought or felt this way. And I was like, how am I in the minority saying that killing people for thought crimes is
Right.
bad?
Inside the Fish Tank house, Grace would gravitate to whoever had like the most clout, or she thought was like the biggest streamer or whatever. I think.
Yeah,
But I
'cause
really was. I was like, actually, like, it still freaks me out now thinking about it. Just like
Yeah.
putting myself back in it. And this is like a small town, so I knew these people that are saying this Facebook,
Oh yeah.
and like, there's
But
like,
you know, a lot of it is just
No, I would probably betray her
right. A lot of it's just bullshit.
for the content. Come on,
Like,
nobody wants to see a happy story on Fish Tank.
you know, I don't know whether it's that they secretly feel guilty because I believe that, to be honest, like we live in a pedophilic culture.
Oh my gosh.
I believe.
Oh man, 20 memberships. Thank you, Get Crack. Oh, I got to see who gets them this time. Oh, Oh, JTO Poker. Dave's Waffle House. Oh, look, we got a big Thorp hater, St. Elmo's Fire. Oh man, Empress Janet. What a poll. Incredible. Wow. Schizo Spud. Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow, we got Empress Janet. What a find. Thank you, Get Cracked. That was a great card pack too. That's a very generous man. That's like a you're really invested in a heavy Fusion Studios portfolio.
Believe that, like, you know, the whole thing of like pubic hair removal is inherently kind of pedophilic. It's kind of saying like it's better to look young.
Empress Janet is Kino. Yeah, I don't know the whole lore behind her and King TL, but I love it when they're on panel together because King will keep it together for a while, then he'll start throwing like some like subtle shade, some like sneak disses on Janet. And if she won't respond to them or acknowledge them, he'll just like go into a tirade against her. And I don't really know why, but it's really fun to watch.
Younger, you know what I mean? Like we have a kind of youth orientation that
Like unlocking Pokemon card packs. Yeah, especially at this point. Like, I wonder like who could be left.
We have an obsession with
blurs
youth.
the line, right? I mean, and when you look at
We're looking for that Keemstar card.
gymnasts, they're very, very young. And I do think that like there is a way in which obviously you're seeing the flexibility or whatever, and you're going like, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable, but also like, you know what I mean? And gymnasts used to look like women. They used to have big breasts, but like, and also like figure skaters, you know, you can see like there's something about
Versus
it that's
Stanley.
like youth culture.
It
Some
might
of these
just be
girls are
strategic in
bare-
these sports, being smaller,
Yeah,
being more dynamic.
Right. It's physiological.
Do you know what
but
gets
then
me with this? Cartoons. I thought
When I think of Grace's legitimately like meanest, nastiest nights was when there was some kind of a. It wasn't too long ago, actually. But Janet had said something or done something on Ruby's stream that had upset her, and she really started dropping like some really heavy, heavy bombs on Janet, and I was like, wow.
when I became an adult and like I just seen like more adult cartoons came up, but they were like
On John Galt? Wow. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's where I've seen Stanley.
TV 14 ones that were for like people that are 10 to like fucking 40.
Didn't you tell me about, I was going to ask you last time and I forgot. You said something about Hormaxer was on somebody's, but I can't remember who it was. Was it Sarah? No, you were telling me something. No, Hormaxer had an episode about Sarah the Tomato. Was that it?
Children in them, like there's a Disney show called Gravity Falls, and then there's Bob's Burgers. They have some of the most
Yep.
horny teenage girls or preteen
Oh,
girls
yeah.
I've ever seen in my life.
You would pay for Matt to keep his cheesy wiener off the internet?
I'm like, this is weird. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and nobody gives a shit. I'm like, that's really weird. This is where we're really sexualizing children, is that we're showing children being very sexual and but it's like, and it's not in the context of like, these are things that like lots of young people go through, and putting it in a context like that. They're just sort of like blowing
Kind of
it
though,
over
isn't the Bob's Burgers
comedically.
thing? It's
Oh, or imagine like pulling a Tony Yo-Man or an Angela Aquera. That would be like that'd be the orange level card.
isn't the Bob's Burgers thing kind of sympathetic?
Bob's Burgers does it
with
better.
brokenness? Yeah.
Bob's Burgers does it better, but like it becomes really normal that like all the little girls in cartoon stuff are like boy crazy and stuff, and like it just
Yeah.
seems like a really weird way for us to get the only kind of information about like developing sexuality in children,
Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
context given to it whatsoever. That freaks me out, because if they're gonna
But it's
talk
hard
about
not
it,
to like. It's hard not to like the what is it, the Little Mermaid? Okay, she's a girl. It's not clear.
I think too we have a new that put us over for another emote. I'll have to make one for the Jedi.
She's a woman. Clearly, this is marketed to little girls. A mermaid is
It would be wait a minute. You think it would be weird to see Grace angry? She seems unbothered by most things. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's why when she gets mad, she's like so mad, but I don't think it's unusual to see her mad.
inherently, it's a sailor's fantasy.
Hormaxer was ranting on Sarah on his last stream. I'll have to check that. Oh, he was looking lustfully at her Instagram too? Wow.
Sexual fantasy, right?
yeah,
So
that part's
the
lost on
idea,
them.
like I identify, well, you know, fish. This kind of smells like, you know. What I
I'm
mean?
saying
Like,
that
I think Grace though when she's mad, it's like she goes into that like tantrum mode and it's kind of hard to take her seriously, which I think is entertaining.
part's
certain
lost on
sense.
children. But if you have a 10-year-old who's like boy crazy,
Necrophilia.
there's not really a lot of like
Wow.
nuance here. It's not going to be like a thing that the
Wow, Rush Limbaugh's burner account.
adult gets and the kids don't. The kids know what's going on, but there's no real context here. It's not trying to get kids to understand themselves or anything. It's just straight up
Mishazed? Oh no. Couldn't be.
making kids sexual in the media. Did you watch Stranger Things on Netflix?
No.
It's the first time I've ever been like outright uncomfortable. This is how uncomfortable I was.
I was watching Stranger Things, and it was the first time I've ever been outright uncomfortable.
I was at a
This guy seems like he's uncomfortable constantly.
tournament for Magic the Gathering, and I was outside smoking a cigarette, and there's nobody by me. Somebody walked up and I said, "Hey, man, can I just vent to you?" Like, I didn't even know this guy. He's like, "Sure." I was like, "Just watched the first episode of the new Stranger Things season, and it had like the two kids from the first season making out in it." I was like, "Why the fuck did they need to show?"
One of my all-time favorite clips is Grace is in she's wearing the sweater and she's got the Swiss Miss hair and she's screaming about Keemstar, and I set it to her singing Dream a Little Dream. I think that's my favorite Grace tantrum, but there's a ton of Grace breakdowns in the Thorp alert.
Show us this. Couldn't they just like explain that it happened? Like, I didn't need to see that.
Right.
That's so weird for me. Like, I'm a parent. I don't want to see like.
But all three people on your screen are wearing douchey hats, so it would be hard to choose.
To like 14, like I think they're like 13 or 14 in the show, and maybe they're like 15 or 16. But like, I don't need to fucking see that. That didn't need to take up like 30 seconds of screen time. They could have just talked about it. That was weird for me.
This is the kind of guy who's like, I watched that movie Revenge of the Nerds, and I thought it was funny, but I did not need to see so many women naked in it. It was just too much. Like, come on, bro. This guy is offended by everything. Everything makes him uncomfortable, except talking to Ben Thorpe. The one thing he's super comfortable with is talking to Ben Thorpe. Everything else like sends this guy off the deep end.
In a certain way, there's I understand that it can be titillating to another audience, but I remember watching
Robot Glock.
the movie Lady Bird, which was a kind of, coming of age, but very realistic. And I'm sitting there with my kids, including my daughter, but also my son. And like, there's a scene of like this girl losing her virginity. That's kind of very realistic. I can see someone saying, in theory, that's okay to say, like, this is how sexuality works, in the modern world.
I think there's more value to that.
But,
Hey, Grace. What happened to Euphoria? I think they're finally bringing it back, but it's had like a huge time gap.
And it's like, it's very real in the sense it's not glamorizing it. It's not like a porno scene. It's very much like two nervous kids. This is like really how it happens, generally speaking. But also,
that I think is a lot more fine and acceptable. If somebody who's around that age sees that, it can help give some kind of expectation.
I almost think the Little Mermaid. I almost think the Little Mermaid is more dangerous because.
Grace, I am absolutely mystified by Elder Drazi. I don't know. This guy is so bizarre to me.
It's like, here you're marketing openly to like 8, 9, 10-year-old girls. A totally sexualized, the fucking shells over her tits. Like, come on. This is a sexual fantasy. Normalized. I don't really know how to apply morality to it, but like, that is definitely a sexual fantasy being marketed as like, a kind of idealized feminine experience. And there were parts about it that are certainly like very cute and nice and traditional, but I think that's it also is like
under the veil.
She's a girl. She's in many ways a young girl. Right. It's smuggled in, which actually I think it makes it more questionable because like then it.
Hey, Grace, if you hear this, is your dad taking the camera off on purpose or is it a tech issue?
Gets smuggled into the unconscious of everyone. And even as an adult, you're saying like, oh, that kind of makes me want to like this is like, is this even a girl? Is this a woman? She doesn't seem like a woman, in many ways. Or you see, speaking of cartoons, have you ever seen these Japanese sex cartoons? They're crazy.
No, I've never seen hentai. I didn't even know what it's called.
I think my favorite Elder Drazi moment is whenever your dad was like, now you're kind of into Mr. Girl, right? And he was so offended and he was like, actually, I'm the Mr. Girl guy. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting response.
They look like little girls. They're usually crying and they have enormous tits. I don't know what kink this is that Japanese people have, but it's obviously, these are not like women. They're like crying children.
Actually, bro, she's 500 years old. She's just immortal. But no, yeah, I understand.
But whatever, and I think in some ways, like, you just got to let culture go where it goes.
Yeah, we're coming up on it.
And like, whatever. It's kind of like what you said, like, well, if people want something, they'll find a way to get it. Sex is something that's very hard to like put in
You'll have to tune in for that on Kick.
boxes. I think we do try to put boxes around it. Sometimes those boxes work well, sometimes they don't. I'm afraid on the internet
We should pass the threshold on this episode so that I will not cliffhanger it.
that if we all followed this culture, we would treat every person under the age of 18 as jailbait. And like even the idea of talking with them online, like because I'm over 18, like
Some
that it's
people
like
are like that.
right, it's crazy, but like how lonely of a weird when you're in a sense hypersexualized that way by being seen.
I don't think Quentin Tarantino ever created anything original, but I think he was good at curating, like, and then maybe it would be considered transformative because of like the way that he, like, yeah, you can say like here's 20 scenes that are really badass from other movies, but like how do you arrange those scenes into a way where it's not, where it's a coherent story, and how do you make it into like a good movie? So I guess he did, in a YouTube sense, he's transforming the content, even if he's like stealing all of the ideas.
Seen only as jailbait, even if I like there are people under 18 who I've interacted with my chat. I do definitely talk to them differently when I learn they're like 16 or 17 years old, right? I understand social skills. I'm not macking on a 16-year-old, but I feel like
Roger Avery,
okay, like if you're mature enough to understand this content, like I'm happy to have you here and I'll interact with you. But some people are like, you've got to boot these people. They cannot be here. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about that. Like, it seems unfair because
I think
there are 16-year-old girls who can have a conversation about family dynamics. It might be helpful to them. We're not watching porn. And you know what I mean? Like, she could be friends with Grace or.
To my knowledge, Ben doesn't have any friends besides Grace that I'm aware of.
Or whatever. And she could talk with me.
Well, I mean, there's no one on the cast that's I don't think that's like a friend to like a real friend to Ben besides Grace.
I think it's fine as long as appropriate boundaries are being held. I think
like there could be people that are in real life but are not part of the storyline, is what I'm saying.
That people take this hyper anti and minor watching their content or like talking to them at all stance, because for two reasons.
Yeah, he hit
one of them is that they are afraid that somebody's going to accuse them of doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Somebody told me it was like a peach vape. I don't know if they could really tell or not, but
which if that's the reason why, fine,
hey,
I get it. I think it's shitty to the people in your audience that are of that age that like just if they didn't.
Yeah, Ben's friends with South to West, and then Ben also has I think a good relationship with now only the chat Joe Shabatoni, not the real Joe Shabatoni, because I think Joe said he had shared some of the Gooner content with Ben and he liked it.
Say anything about their age, they would be fine to like be in chat and all that. But if that's a real threat for you, then like I get it. It's unfortunate. Yeah. But on the other side,
I understand it's a tricky thing to navigate because
Ben has a friend named Craig. Well, there you go. Ben once said he has never known friendship. What a hard life Ben's had. He's never known friendship. He's never had a positive sexual experience. To me, that's the most iconic Ben line.
Well, one girl I'm thinking of in particular, like, I don't know her personally, right? But I've learned a little bit more about her. At first, I didn't know who she was, so I was a little bit saucy with her. And then I was like, oh, gosh, you're a real girl. And I was like, I really toned it down.
Well, can we count Ping Pong Dave?
But
OPC is Ben's friend, I think.
Like, we're gonna have to find a way to work this out. I toned down the like. I don't really come right out of the gate with strangers usually, unless they're coming. Like I was called in Hunter Avalon's chat a DILF. I didn't even see it.
I just watched that before I talked to you.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And then I go, okay. I was like mad at the mods, right?
Is.
Whatever. And they're all accusing me. They're all dogpiling. And I go, this chick called me and I said, these mods suck. And she said, I'm glad I could still flirt with you, Ben, or something like that. And I was like, oh, you're the girl called me a DILF. Like, yeah. I'm down. And then she goes, I'm 17. And I go, what the fuck? Right?
But she was
And then she
19.
goes, just kidding, I'm 19. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
no.
But even if you were 17,
Oh no, is the cheeks guy. Oh no.
like, I don't have any
Not
problem if you want to
Craig.
say I'm a DILF. I think there's an appropriate way in which I can say, like, okay,
I remember that came up during one of the great Grace versus Aphrodite debates.
take that as a joke. If she's sending me nudes, I'm gonna say like, like, but I'm not gonna be a jerk about it to her. I'm gonna say like, listen, sweetheart, like you're too young to be doing this. But I don't want to humiliate her, and you know what I mean?
I think
Like,
that's the appropriate response.
it's tricky.
You don't want to
but,
fuck
like,
them up for the rest of their life because they did something
Right.
that they shouldn't be doing. But
Right, I
you
don't
gotta
wanna-
let them
and then-
know, hey, not cool.
Right.
Cheeks.
Yeah, just like, but you're a kid. Okay, so I'm gonna take it that you're kidding around, right? But she wasn't. Then she's lying, and everyone's like, well, but if she was 17, you would have. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why don't we ask her why she's doing this? You know what I mean? And he was like, don't blame you know what I mean? It just becomes this crazy kind of thing. But if a girl is 17 and she,
Randy, just the way that you type that, it just is so like it makes it. It's just so. You really put like a high level, which I'm sure it was a gross experience, but like you really put the you really made it disgusting sounding.
he's flirting with me, I think that's fine. I
was
take it
really
as
caught
playful
off guard
flirting.
by it.
You can rest assured there is no scenario in which I'm having sex with a 17-year-old, but I'll be happy to flirt with a girl like that. It's fine. And she could flirt with me in DMs. I understand you have to be careful because there becomes, like, in this state,
What?
the age of consent is 16, but then internet is federal and then it's 18. So, okay, so no dick pics, no, right? I'd have to, but if she just wants to be like a kind of,
Let me consult my quick reference guide to intimate messaging.
if someone wants to have a flirty relationship with you of that age, it's not, first of all, pedophilia. That's unbelievably unlikely that this is a person who has not hit the age of puberty. And whatever, I'm just saying it doesn't. I don't think many girls want to be in that position at that age.
Yeah.
But it happens with a fair amount with girls in their early 20s who want to, kind of fuck around with me as a father figure. They know I'm
No, I'm smoking ice cream, man.
safe. So they fuck around with me, call me creepy, say, whatever, you're a pedo or whatever, and I go, yeah, whatever. It's perfectly fine. It's funny. They can freak out, drop my DMs.
I'm gonna buy time on a local radio station and just play this at like 3 o'clock in the morning. How many complaints do you think would come in the next day?
To Ethan Ralph. I don't care. I don't see a scenario in which, like, I'm going to get married to someone who's 22 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not stupid. I don't even see a scenario in which I would have sex with someone who's 22
Oh, you're thinking of Gorilla Glue.
years old. But do I think it's fun? Is it validating for me in some ways to, like, do daddy-daughter play with a 22-year-old, sort of? And do the girls like it? And maybe they have daddy issues? Yeah. I think it could be a fun thing that we do for a couple months, and then she moves on, like, to an age-appropriate, partner. And
I agree, and that's when you know it's really taken off.
I think it could be a thing that's like a happy thing, that there's this, like, cross-generational,
I don't even
kind
know
of
if people
sexual
would.
play.
I don't know if people would.
It's relaxing to hear if you're like me and like yapping, like consistent yapping, like is relaxing. But if you actually like listen to it, it's like very not relaxing.
Even have an issue with you doing that if there wasn't already the incest discourse surrounding your family.
Right. Yeah, and I think actually, like, one of the weird things is, I think
What are they gonna take? Get cracked my all-in-one PC?
you know this. If you're into BDSM, or if you do BDSM,
Plus, isn't the FCC like shut down now? What are they gonna do about it? They got defunded.
you know that, like, daddy-daughter talk is the most vanilla kink there is in the sexual universe. Like,
Dude,
for a
I've
girl
done
to scream out
DDLG
daddy,
stuff, all right?
right? I mean,
And people don't like that
So-
around here either. Like, but
to
here's
do
the
what?
thing:
You've done what?
like DDLG stuff.
I don't know what that means.
Is daddy dom little girl.
Oh,
And
okay, yeah.
and the thing is, I didn't even know what that was. But when my
Woo.
wife and I were like dating like women together, like we attracted a lot. It was like we were a magnet for women that were into DDLG. So we just had to
Oh
like figure out
boy.
what the fuck this was. And at
Oh
first, it was like
boy.
Yeah.
we were both kind of like, I don't really think I want to.
We
But then,
were
like
magnets
when you get
for
so
it.
many matches, it's about like, all right, let's actually like kind of look into this and see what's going on. Like maybe it's not like as crazy because it
Yeah.
sounds off putting. And then it's like, okay, I
Pardons
get
all
it.
day.
And for me, I'm pretty much if a chick says she's into something, like that's what I'm into. I'm into doing the things that my partner's into.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
it's whatever. And it's not as though if I'm doing it, like I have to imagine like this person is actually like hit or whatever. That's fucking crazy.
Right. Right.
Be adults and
Obviously, with
compartmentalize
your
our
relatives,
brains.
it's crazy. But with a much younger or a significantly younger female partner,
Hey Grace, do you know how tall Elder Drazi is? We were trying to estimate.
like to spank her on her butt in a way that leaves you like a hand mark. Okay, obviously that's pretty vanilla. You know what I mean? And like,
I remember one time Ben was talking. I don't even remember what the conversation was, but I know I clipped it. And Ben was talking about how he was gonna he was gonna instruct a woman, and he was gonna he was very vivid about it. He was like he was gonna take his hand, and he like described how fast and hard he was gonna hit, and like that he wanted like just the right amount of like red to pop up out of her ass cheek. It was like it was a really like honed down like very specific vision.
like
Yeah, I've definitely
I
been a
think
part
a
of things that
lot
are
of
more extreme
girls
than
like that. Yeah, and like even flipping it around with like son mother play with like that happens a lot now. I'm curious
mommy
about it.
dom little boy. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of it. It's I think a little more unusual
it is.
because
Just look at the amount
and
of
it's sort of
porn. Yeah, DDLG has a ton. Mommy dom little boy, very little.
No, not how old is he? How did I've meant how tall is he?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting because I think it's like culturally less acceptable for men to date older women than it is for older men to date younger women. That's always like been true.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You just had a
Remember that really weird call in on I think it was on Thorp TV on like one of where just like random people call in and then the Thorps will use that to take a cigarette break. And it was a guy talking about how he was dating an older woman. And then another guy called in and was like really upset by that. And it devolved into like this really personal, like series of personal attacks between these two guys over like dating an older woman.
the panel on that.
Yeah, and I actually think I can't believe how many younger men I encounter who seem like they absolutely want a mommy and not a girlfriend. You know what I mean? So
Oh, I liked older women just because I just didn't want
Strike 4.
to talk about
Or
the
strike,
shit that
like,
like younger
100
women
at
to
this
talk about.
point.
I also wanted a woman that had some experience, who has a little bit of confidence in the bedroom. I didn't want to have to like
Ben's respect levels for Drazi are just bottoming out completely.
I didn't want to babysit during sex. That's weird.
Mexican and Maine?
right.
I want somebody who's comfortable
kind of
with
get
themselves.
I kind of get it. I kind of feel like, to be honest with you, like I don't know. I think this is going to spontaneously happen. I think a lot of Gen Z girls want to have sort of kind of affairs with older men who are much more secure in their masculinity, because Zoomer guys can be so
Here's Ben cucking the Zoomers as always.
abrasive and so immature, right? And girls are just naturally a little more mature than guys their age. And this red pilling Andrew Tate stuff has made a lot of Zoomer guys just like, right? So they kind of want to have like a weird little affair with an older man to affirm.
There's a show I want to introduce you guys to, or some of you might already know about it sometime, but it's a show that actually you can call it, that has like a call in, like if they're ever live, like you can always call in.
Them, you know, and then I don't know how that works, you know what I mean? But like that's what I kind of want to exploit with this. Like I want Grace and this girl Nyx and like whatever other girls want to do it, like to do this like trad quote porn and have like older men kind of shower them with money and affection and also kind of like do the daddy stuff with them in a way that's perfectly safe, perfectly funny, and then like affirm that.
Hey Montero, he's gonna pull a what was that guy? The not lay Geno.
I think that they can then feel stronger and then obviously are going to end up pairing up with people around their own age, or probably
This is where every Ben panel ends up, I think, if people will engage with him long enough.
like a few years older, which is always like probably normal and healthy.
Well, now it would wind in like that Ben needs to go trans because being a man is a crime. But maybe now that we're going through this societal shift, maybe Ben feels like it's safe to remain a man now. I'm not sure how that's going to work.
I don't think a lot of like massive age difference relationships make much sense long term.
My ex-wife was 17 years older than me, Ben.
Oh, really? See, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And you didn't find that it worked out?
Well, it did. The reason why it didn't work out is the same reason why almost every relationship of mine that I ended is because
Good idea. Give Ben like tons of your deep lore so that he can put it into his computer.
she lied. She lied too much. Part of our marriage vows was to be honest to each
Do you think Ben's gonna form all of this into like a giant hammer and just bring it down on Elder Drazi at some point, or do you think this like kind of chill vibe is gonna keep going? Because he's calling him out, but he's being like really, for Ben anyway, like being really laid back about it, I think.
other, and she just lied. And she was an alcoholic, so that certainly didn't fucking help.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're 22 and you're in love, you're stupid. So
He got into it with somebody. He had a feud. Well, obviously, he had a feud with a lot of people in chat, but I can't remember what the guy's name was. But this guy was really just talking shit on Legeno. It was whenever he was hosting a lot for the Thorps during like the 24/7 arc, and like this guy really got into it with him. And finally, they brought him up onto panel, and like Legeno just torched the guy like just brutally. And I didn't see him again in chat for like 6 months, but I always see him in Toilet Bowl Earth's chat sometimes.
oh,
Wow, you were 22. She was 37.
she was 39.
Chaotic Truth versus the Furby. I know. I thought that was a really fun segment.
They're all.
And he deleted it. I clipped like the first hour, and then he deleted it. And I think they said at some point they were going to put it up on Kick or Rumble, but I forgot and never checked. I got high and forgot about it.
Oh, okay, right.
I had a 16-year-old stepson, 16-year-old stepson at 22.
See, that's really interesting.
It was cool. We played Xbox together.
Person.
This was October of 2023.
Yeah, right. It must have been a weird dynamic to be like the stepfather. I don't know if you were treated as, I doubt it, as a stepfather, right? Like
22 and 30.
Well,
some kind of blend.
He lived with it.
That's like 17 years. Wouldn't that put you completely out of each other's you'd be like a completely different generation, not just like opposite ends of one, but like a completely different generation.
He lived with his grandma, because they were like super rich and they went to like the good school and stuff. But not like he wouldn't always live with his grandma. And like shortly after we weren't together, he moved back in with her because he was out of school. But like we got along fine. Every once in a while he'd come over, like he was on the football team. He brought his friends over and stuff, and they'd crash at our place. But like it was kind of like an interesting dynamic, because it was kind of like, I don't think it would have been possible for me to be like a father figure. Exactly.
What was Ruby's was 23 and 35. That's not quite the same.
Exactly, because
yeah.
She's got to get that. She's got to get those numbers pumped up.
Yeah.
Because like we just hang out, like you said, we played Xbox together and stuff, or we played basketball.
Right. And I'm sure his friends were a little bit like, what do you mean?
Somewhere out there is some 23, now maybe 24-year-old guy who has no idea that his mere existence helped light the fuse that burnt the bridge that led to the wild chase through the streets into the account destruction. If we're going to blame anybody for Misunderstood and Ruby SpaceX not official throwaway account being taken away from us, it's that 23-year-old guy, in my opinion.
I mean, your mom.
But I looked out
that's
for
your
him.
mom's boyfriend, you know what I mean? Like, or actually, that's your mom's husband, right? But he's so young. Whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like, who cares? Whatever. But it must have created interesting dynamics, and I just think that's the world we're in, where the interesting dynamics. And
Okay, Grace has returned to the room. Now she's left again at 3:38. So we're really zooming in on it here.
and you're doing interesting. You've been doing interesting things for a long, long time. I misread you as like a total normie.
I'm
You seem
quite
like
not.
What's up, ICL? Yes, Tender Ben.
like a nice middle low.
Tender Ben sounds like a new arc for Ben. Listen, Grace, I know I've been harsh on you lately. I've had a lot on my mind. I've been going through a lot of stress, but I'm ready to become Tender Ben.
Whatever, kind of like nice, middle-aged, very balanced guy. But like you're not. You make me look like a normie, honestly.
By
Right?
the way, I
Wow,
wanted
what a
to
statement
tell you
from Ben
during that
Thorp.
panel, I think it came off is that I was shutting you down a lot. I
No,
knew
not at all.
I felt like
Not
I
at
had to
all.
protect you during that because there were so many people like preemptively going after you. I'm like,
shit.
this is my fucking panel. This isn't the panel to fucking
A
attack Ben Thorp.
pylon, right? Yeah.
And
No, I appreciate it. You've been very, very
Hollywood.
like a lot of time. Yeah, right. I appreciate it. You should, but not so much to like. I
Ben
don't care
23.
personally, but like you're like we can't have a conversation if it's just you're just screaming daughter fucker, daughter fucker, daughter fucker.
well, not only
daughter
that too,
fucker,
like what does
right?
that say
Like, it's
about
like,
me if I bring you on and just let everybody attack you and avoid the conversation that's being had? That's not okay
Right.
with me.
Oh
And
boy.
so like the times that I shut you down, it just turned into people like trying to like go
my
after
God.
you over and over again when I was like, all right, we gotta just go. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I had the absolute opposite experience, and I even was busting your balls. Like I was just like, I was trolling the whole panel, but I tried to be like, I was like, you know what, I do want
I should have got grapes yesterday. They still had cotton candy grapes. I'll be right back.
because you guys were, I knew you guys were connected to Mr. Girl, and I was like, I was watching some Mr. Girl content. I was like, this
It was
is
just
more
me and
interesting.
Smith there.
These people actually want to have a conversation. So like, I'm not gonna come in ready for blood sport. Usually I am. So when I get it, I just like bang back. But I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But I do end up saying, like, I present an alternative. But I think that like should be welcome. Someone who's saying like, actually, I have a totally different point of view on this stuff. And I was able to say that, and people were able to take it seriously. I have had some subsequent conversations with Smith. Tuna
I watched them all.
ship, and now with you, and it's totally refreshing
You talked to
to
Tuna?
be able to. What's that?
You talked to Tuna?
Refreshing.
I actually think Grace was interacting with him. and
Okay,
Smith.
yeah, I
Hey,
seen
hold
that.
on a second here. South to West said that it was refreshing before Ben said it on the stream. Now there are some who believe that South to West is actually a Ben Thorp alt. Now I don't personally, but that could have been a telling moment.
It was in chat.
Tuna's a homie.
Um,
I watched him and I were in Discord call when I was at the tail end of that. I've actually met him in real life.
Literally, Grace.
Like we became like real friends from streaming together. Tuna's cream of the crop guy.
Yeah, he seemed interesting,
Did you see I got Empress Janet in that last pack? That's pretty amazing.
and he was actually talking about the same thing of like intellectual masturbation. Like, what are we doing? So I keep hearing things within this world that I just got so used to. I think this is like a legit Mr. Girl criticism. It's like a lot of times when you're interacting with a lot of streamers, you don't realize they're in the Destiny world, and their idea of what is normal has been molded by a community of people who have kind of similar ideas of like content, and it does tend towards chaos
As a Courtney alt, that's a really interesting perspective.
for the sake of chaos. And as someone who tries to enter into this world thinking these people aren't part of like, you know what I mean, that they're just spontaneously doing that, you're just like,
Do you think if it is Courtney that she's laying it on so thick to make it obvious to everybody, but like Ben will eat it up because he wants the validation? Or do you think it's just her way of reliving the good old days?
God, I can never have a conversation
Yeah, in
with
this
anyone.
space.
You just get shut down. And then I kind of like, you actually
Hey, I said I didn't think he was, and I'm just saying though there are people who believe that. Your thoughts on your mom wanting to dig through your storage unit? You're open to her taking basically whatever she wants as long as she can stream it? I mean, I think you would get an incredible amount of views on that if you did a stream with Courtney. I mean, that would be like, everybody would be talking about it. South to West would be very upset though about that if that woman was involved. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's up to you. I mean, I wouldn't let her take the Hooplandia shoes, but other than that, yeah. I mean, it is true. Like, and it's not, it's for everybody's peace of mind. Like, you don't even have to phrase it like safety, but just everybody's peace of mind that nobody's going to be misrepresented about anything that took place there or anything like that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with filming it.
Actually reached out to me and I was like, actually, maybe this isn't
Well, so Courtney thinks that the coin collection is in the safe with the ball gag.
inherent to streaming. And, that's why I was like, oh, yes. And then I was looking at Mr. Girl. I'm like, this guy is not doing the same thing. But he feels like he got excluded from this. And I don't know whether this is inherent to streaming.
Yeah, Grace, get cracked for me has said that those shoes actually, since he paid for them, he wants to donate them to me.
Or something that's actually just like maybe either a phase of streaming that's going to give way.
Dead Ringers with Jeremy Irons, where he's like the twins.
Because chaos for chaos's sake gets boring really fast.
I've been saying I think we're on like the cusp of a new wave of streamers. I think that there's going to be people that people haven't heard of blowing up for different reasons than the previous stronghold of streamers have blown up for. Because culture's changing. The streamers aren't changing that much. They're changing at about the same rate you would expect anybody their age to change in real life.
Yep.
Actually, Paulie has purchased the Hooplandia shoes.
So they're not adapting the same way.
And there's a certain
he's calling about them right now.
Lag, right? Because if it's working for you, you're not looking to change, right? But like a highly competitive environment can often change very quickly, and streaming certainly is. I think it's a growth industry. Like when I first started, it was just a year ago. Would
you split the donos with Courtney? And would you turn on TTS? If there's ever been a time to cash in on TTS, it would be during the Courtney stream.
Started live chatting. Grace was like, "Oh, you can." I was like, "You could talk to the TV," and I was like hooked. I was like, "Oh my god, this is going to change media," and I really think that's true. There is not going to be TV anymore without everyone's going to be live chatting. People in nursing homes are going to be live chatting, right? It's just.
I mean, this is WrestleMania. This would be it. This would be the event.
How aren't people going to want to interact with media that they've been passive to for so long? It's just like
I'm not going to smell the shoes.
In gaming, it used to be like you play the game. Now it's like you're on the phone with 5 of your friends playing.
Unless we hit the sub goal over on Kick.
The game together. That's never going to go back to just like sitting there passively playing your Atari.
I haven't played a Call of Duty game.
No, all I have to do is go to the post office and reactivate the thing. So it's not I'll have it handled shortly. I promise I won't get high and forget this time.
Campaign mode in like 6 years.
Meaning with people?
No, the campaign, like the story mode. You just go straight into multiplayer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're social creatures. So you could take even something which is like a lot of people say is antisocial, playing video games. And like as soon as you get a mic going, everyone's into it. You know what I mean? I used to be worried about my kids playing video games because it was like, oh, you guys aren't developing social skills. And I'm not saying that playing video games is like the best necessarily way of developing social skills. It's limited.
Media would suck because people would just make like terrible screeching sounds type media.
Doesn't
maybe
necessarily
it is, though,
make you
if that's what it's going to be.
But yeah,
it's tough.
Even back in the day when video games were just, but like there are
Joe Shabatoni's already imagining financial ruin from the TTS.
Benefits, hand-eye coordination, whatever. They're the guys who fly drones for the Air Force were served well by sitting there, with joysticks. It's limited. It obviously can become an addictive, kind of pointless, antisocial thing, but there's a way in which I think we can be too scared of technology.
You're a dad now too. It's tough to say how much time should they be spending playing video games or being on their phone, because what if that's all it is in 20 years from now? and then like I fucked them over by making them do more shit
Right.
outside when nobody does that. What is my kid supposed to be like the only 40-year-old
Right.
trying to do shit like out in public when everybody else now
Right.
they're the fucking weirdo? We don't know.
Right.
Things are
Right.
changing too fast to where the future
In
is
in many ways, in many ways, I could
unforeseeable.
say like when Grace was before I really kind of got to know her and we could reconnected, she was watching a lot of TikTok. And you could say, oh, you were just wasting your time, hours and hours watching TikTok. But in a certain sense, now that she's an editor, that
Yeah.
was really great preparation for being an editor because she understands memes and like she has access to like the memes in a way that's like so fast. She knows how to take a meme, boom, put it in Discord. It's hilarious. I'm like, holy shit. Like that's a great practical skill for us in our situation. If you could just do that, like, that's how Twitter works. It's like funny memes, little clips. It's not about writing a novel. If you had been studying like Jane Austen and like writing novels as a homeschooler, okay, there are people who read novels, but like this meme thing that you were doing, which a lot of people say is like, oh, that's the end of civilization. Well,
It's just new.
it could pay your
Well-
bills, and you could, there's a thing like the soul of wit. Brevity is the soul of wit. Like it's always been true that a funny little quip is oftentimes what like changes society. You know what I mean? Jesus didn't do much more than just say like little phrases that were tell little stories. He wasn't like a novelist. He wasn't Dostoevsky. So
Yeah, then I knew
you know
that
what I
things
mean?
were different.
She has exactly 22 days to contact. All right. So she has till, yeah. All right.
I got paid
About
for a full day of
3
work.
weeks and 1
We didn't
day.
have anything to do, and my boss paid me just as much as I normally would, and I just made memes for the company's Twitter and
Is the butt plug still in the safe?
Facebook for a
Right.
whole day. I was like,
Why is he dressed like that? I don't know, but it really adds to the vibe.
this is crazy. I'm just literally getting paid to make memes. This is wild.
right.
It wasn't like the best day of work ever because like it kind of drags on when you're just sitting there
Yeah.
doing something only created, but like it was kind of profound.
Right.
The world is
And a lot
different
of
now.
companies, if they want to like relate to younger people, should hire sort of like TikTok addicts.
Yeah.
Because like if you hire a conventional person who's gone to school for advertising or whatever, marketing, they're just gonna have like textbook knowledge, but like that kid's gonna know what's funny, and in a way that an adult's gonna be like, "Are you sure? Does that even make
All the toys are in the safe? Great.
sense? I don't even understand." And he'll be like, "No, trust me." And that kid is often right. And like that's who and the company's gonna go, "Well, I don't care whether it makes sense to me. If you're selling like or you're able to penetrate this market, you're valuable to me. I don't care whether you have a piece of paper from Harvard. If you know what I mean, it's if you're able to do this, and it takes a certain personality to really get how to do that, a certain amount of maturity to be able to like produce it, not just consume it. But it can be, the idea of streaming as a personality streamer is interesting because it's like you are actually the product.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
You're
it's
forever in a
really
job
interesting.
interview. You're selling yourself.
right.
Selling
And it's like
you on me. Yeah.
I told Grace that, like, in a weird way, even us having a somewhat dysfunctional relationship in which she has like all this nervousness around me and anxiety is like interesting content because
True.
people like the tension. You know what I mean? And are kind of like they're trying to figure out: is Grace being abused? Is Ben being abused?
It's
Does
great.
this have
It's
to do
like
with
they don't
her
know.
mother
They don't
or
know who.
what?
They don't know for sure.
It's like
who's
you don't
abusing
have to
who.
resolve that.
Fantastic television.
Like you would in the past, you'd have to resolve that so you can write like maybe a novel, taking those experiences, then putting them into fictional characters and publishing a novel, trying to sell it to editors who would then publish it. You could just turn a camera on, and if it's interesting, which I think it is, people would consume it in raw form, live, and kind of be interested in like, are you guys going to resolve this, or are you going to descend into, you know what I mean? People say like, a lot of people say like the reason I'm addicted to Thorp content is because everyone likes to see a car crash, everyone wants to see a train
Because
wreck.
Jerry
And
Springer's
it's like,
dead.
yeah, right. And I'm like, I get it. I don't mind that because I don't know where it's gonna go. It's like, it's a real life kind of novel, right? And I think that's weird. You have to be aware that like you don't want. It's difficult to make yourself a product because like, are you selling yourself? Authenticity is a problem. But
Also, nobody wants you to be proud of anything anymore. If you're proud of anything, you're bragging. So like, what do you have to do? You just have to exemplify the bad parts of you. Like, what the fuck? No, people don't want you to want to put out anything you're putting out. You know?
but they do, right? Because
It's weird.
they're ready to consume it, but they
Yeah.
also want to trash you. But I think the thing about it is a lot of people mistake is like, I saw an interview that Destiny was doing with Hunter Avalon. He's like, streaming is not good for your mental health. And I think Mr. Girl had the same conclusion. It's like, there's something intrinsic about this that is not good for
Yeah, Ben's good for business.
people. And I disagree. I think it
You got to bring him through every once in a while to spark the territory.
is good for people.
He's the Bruiser Brody of Fusion Studios.
And it like, I don't think it gives you a thick skin necessarily, but you have to learn how to love yourself with all your blemishes, because they're gonna come out. And if you want to say like, no,
Yeah.
I'm only this is like social media 2.0 was like, I'm gonna present a version of myself that is like super attractive. Okay, you cannot do that in streaming. Do you know what I mean? Like the Instagram that looks like, oh my gosh, look, oh, my family, or I'm so fun, I just take pic. When you're streaming, all your blemishes are going to come out. The chat's going to troll you. Okay, so like,
Well, Elder Drazi is also like he's a punching bag, essentially. So he's not going to fire back on Ben. So Ben's not going to get, worked up. But yeah, it is like, this is way more chill Ben than usual.
it's gonna
It's the hat. Let's be real.
reality is going to come through.
If you're seeking
And-
validation through streaming, you're fucked.
Yes, that's right.
Like,
That's right.
my wife said she was considering doing OnlyFans, and I said, here's the thing: if you want to do OnlyFans because you want to
Oh boy, Elder Drazi just losing points with Ben left and right.
do it as like, basically, I said, here's when I would have an issue. If you're doing it just to make money and you're not doing it and treating it like it's a business, then you're gonna see those dollars come in when you're putting no fucking effort into it, because it doesn't matter how hot you are, how
100% Cody Turbo.
sexy the things that you are doing in it are. If you're not marketing it and working at it 8 hours a day like a business, you're not going to make that money. If you see
The Thorps would totally be like the Bruiser Brodies, or like the outlaw people who like, Abdullah the Butcher, that never worked in one place. They were always working and always, always had an audience, but like they never stayed in the same place, and then they would like burn the promoters.
small amounts of money coming in and low interaction because you're not putting in that effort, that's going to fuck your head up, and you're going to think of your value in those dollars. Then I'm not for that. I don't support that. If you just want to do it as like a fucking hobby or whatever, just because it'd be fun, then sure. But if you think that you're going to do it thinking you're going to make money and not put that effort into it, then don't do it, because that'll hurt you bad. In order to stream and not have it hurt you, you have to know who you are. You have to be comfortable with yourself, because then when people talk shit about you, it's going to roll off your shoulders. Because I don't give a shit. You're not telling me anything about me that I don't know. If it's not true, I don't care.
Right, and I think that actually can be good for you. I understand it can, there is a way. I tell this to all people who are going to stream. Often I encourage them too, if they have some talent. There's a way in which every insecurity of yours is going to be picked up by people, picked up on. Physical insecurities, any sexual kind of uncomfortableness you have is going to get trolled. But I actually think that makes you a better person if you can transcend it and say if you're the type of person who wants to be a performer, which does not mean you're a narcissist. That's not one.
I can watch a little bit more, but I gotta wind down here shortly.
Another use of language that I think is a bad use of language. If a person gets up on a stage because they think they have a talent or something they'd like to share with other people, that is not narcissism. That's the opposite of narcissism, right? And a truly narcissistic person would not want to get up on stage, especially they wouldn't want to live stream, because all of their insecurities, all that fragility is going to be really hard to manage.
Yeah, you're just asking people to call you out and put you in back you into a wall, which is a nightmare for a narcissist.
Yeah, narcissists are in a sense fragile, right? So live streaming is really hard to maintain narcissism, the bullshit, when you're live streaming, because you don't have control.
people in this space have a hard time telling the difference between somebody who's cocky and somebody who's narcissistic. It's crazy to me.
Right.
Like you can't just be like a little.
It's true. Now I do have to take a break, so tomorrow I'll be back to my normal, VHS era content. But we'll start again on we'll pick up this again on next Monday, and then we'll expiration to time it out.
Arrogant and full of yourself, like you have to have narcissistic personality disorder. Now I've only met one person in the entire time I've talked to people online that I was like, this person, you can't convince me they don't have narcissistic personality disorder. That's Darth Dawkins. He's the first person that had a name that I recognized that I ever debated, and it was fucking insane.
Former NBA player Daryl Dawkins is a narcissist, according to Elder Drazi.
I debated him, and the next day I was talking to somebody else in the same server, and he came and ambushed it because he was mad at me from before and debated me a second time that I didn't even fucking ask for.
Is he a religious guy? I know the name.
Yeah.
And he just sort of steamrolls, right? He doesn't actually give.
Yeah, the second day I just kept interrupting him, and he goes, started getting mad. I was like, look, every time I fucking say anything, you cut me off. So I was like, you're not special. I'll do it back to you, motherfucker.
Right.
This is ridiculous. And I went to his Wikipedia page, and there's a video, and you click it. And I thought it was all people that had just talked to him, but it was actually a video of people describing their interactions with people that had narcissistic personality disorder. Whoever put that wiki together was really clever. Because I thought they were all just describing him since it was on his wiki. That's it.
Sorry.
I've never seen anybody else online that I actually
You're the only one as toxic as Ben.
thought had that. Not a lot of people in in the Mr. Girl camp thinks that Destiny has narcissistic personality disorder. I don't think that he does. I think he's really fucking cocky.
Trap Daddy, what Grace is saying is you need to invest in this idea up front to help him get it up and running. Then you'll make it up on the back end.
And I mean, to be fair, if you're that big, it's probably hard not to get cocky.
Yeah, right.
You have so much validation flowing into you constantly. I get it.
Yeah.
But
I think it makes them actually vulnerable. I don't think you want to have so much validation, but I think it makes you think you can cruise. So it's dangerous to you as a competitor, which means this is what I'd love to say to Mr. Girl is yeah, but if you're on the outside and you're hungry and you're not getting the validation, then you can see the opportunities in a competitive environment to shoot past someone who might have you know what I mean? In a competitive environment, if you're lazy, you're not paying attention to the trends, you're just doing what you've always done.
It was fun though to see him in kind of a, remember that Laugh Olympics where you'd see all the different cartoon characters interact? That's kind of what it was like.
Someone has the opportunity to just go flying by you, right? And by the time you figure out actually oops, I should have embraced that person instead of excluding them. It's, you're done.
That's why I
the
think
W
things are going to change
online.
I think that Twitch polls really stagnant.
And Ben was in the chat.
And it's not not branching out in the ways that it should. The topics are all pretty much the same. Which is why I'm trying to talk about things that aren't necessarily directly politics, but which panel were you on? Was it jealous? It wasn't the jealousy one.
No, it was the one before jealousy.
Oh, loyalty.
About...
It was loyalty. So I like talking about things that sort of inform the way that we it's like a step down from our politics.
I wouldn't have done Fat Camp. I don't think there's anything entertaining that you could do without it falling against YouTube terms of service. I can't think of any way to make that into. I just think it's a terrible idea in general.
How do we actually think about things? Because nobody talks about how they actually feel about anything anymore. They just talk about things they can yell at people about and condemn them for.
Yeah.
So how do you build up?
Yeah, you're going upstream a little bit to saying what are the more core things that manifest themselves in politics.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people behave so fucking crazy around here. So I want to get to the bottom of it. How did you get so fucking crazy? Random person on Twitter who's yelling.
Or I guess if you absolutely had to do it, it was dropped in your lap or whatever, you could go with a well, this is recency bias, but you could do a Revenge of the Nerds type competition where you instead of I don't know what they're doing now, just laying on the ground or walking around topless, but do different type of little mini challenges just for points, and then you could they wouldn't all have to be physical. You could have some mental challenges, and endurance challenges, but just make them like goofy shit. Because I honestly don't even know what the content was of Fat Camp. It didn't seem like anything was ever happening.
Yelling at somebody who had a difference in opinion. How did you get so fucking worked up and crazy to where you're at this point? Can we just talk about people for a little bit, so maybe that when we see somebody we disagree with, we don't have to fucking lose sleep over it? Like,
Yeah.
it seems a little. It seems like this whole space is
There
sort of
are-
built on helping people lose their way. You know.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, and that may not be. I guess
Tapeworm challenge.
what I'm saying is, I think you maybe agree with me. It's not intrinsic to the space. It can't.
I mean, like the easiest thing would be to just do like act. I don't know. I mean, I have to think they're gonna do like sumo, right? That's gonna have to be like real, like put in a little bit of effort. But that's an easy one. They have to probably have that on the docket, I would think.
Can be a space in which people
Yeah, it's just comfortable for
You-
the space right now.
just because like you can't punch me in the face, right? And we don't have the social.
Yeah, and then even if you don't have like the most active participants, you have people that are just basically, bumps or what is it? What was that one lady? What was her deal? A pimple? Then your camera is active, so it feels active. I agree, especially when they put no effort into like the static shots.
cues of an IRL situation. Doesn't mean we have to descend into ultra hostility, right? Because we don't have those social, you know what I mean? The way in which like people in a room will give each other like, etiquette in ways that you often don't even like know you're experiencing. Well, you take that away. Okay, it can become chaotic, but also it gets boring, and maybe you need to give room to people in another way. That can actually like there's something good about.
They didn't do weigh-ins. Then what's the? Yeah, exactly. That's something that people would donate during, and people would spend money to see them go through. That's the most basic. I just assumed they would do that.
Live streams. I think in my own experience with like family dynamics, a lot
Yeah.
of times taking a family dynamic that's gotten locked in where no one can talk to each other and putting it online and letting there be chat can actually give some breathing room so that it's actually, and people will say, no, you should get off the internet.
Gorilla Monsoon used to say back when he was a wrestler and at his heaviest, they'd have to take him down to the meat yard
And go meet these people in a room. That's
or the stock yard or whatever and weigh him on like the cattle scales.
not always a good idea. You know what I mean?
There's a safety net put in place by having to not have to be in
It
arm's
gives
reach.
you some more space, and you can say like, which doesn't really mean anything, but you can say I appeal to chat, or like I'd like people to chime in on this. We need some fresh air in here. Am I totally crazy or what? And obviously you're going to take all of that
All right,
with a
we're in
grain
the
of
final
salt, and people are going to
countdown
come in
toward
and
the first potential
fake
window.
psycho analyze everyone.
Or Stephen
Okay,
Davis
but
for this
like, okay,
monumental
let
moment.
him.
Yeah.
And like I do think the truth does eventually emerge. Often people, I use the example with my situation. If you open a door and there's a big man,
Man, Mike was honestly like eye-opening. I was like, oh no. It reminded me of Quado from Total Recall. Remember the guy that had like the parasitic twin?
yelling at a small woman who looks like she's sort of like half crying,
Value.
it's obvious in our culture you would make the assumption that that man is abusing that woman. But if you know anything about the dynamics of relationships, it could be that she is playing the victim and baiting him into that, and he's actually the victim in that situation. You will not be able to see that until you sit
Sure.
you see it for a while, but it can happen. Women are extremely good at being manipulative in subtle ways and playing the victim. That's the super.
All right, I got us over the 4-hour mark. I've got to go though. That's the first potential window for the golden moment. But if you're just here for the Thorp stuff, I'll be back Monday to continue this, and we'll run it out however many. I think it'll only be like 1 or 1.5 more days. But I'll be back the rest of the week to stream other stuff. But anyway, I appreciate you hanging out. Thank you for all the memberships. Get cracked for me. Amazing. We'll have a Jedi emoji by tomorrow's stream. And thank you, Grace, for coming by and giving your inside analysis on what we're seeing. Greatly appreciated. And thank you to everybody for hanging out. I do sincerely appreciate you sitting through this amazing content with me.